Plot, Wait Until Dark, 1967. Heading. Written by Garrick. When Sam Hendrix carries a doll across the Canada-US border, he sets of a chain of events that will lead to a terrifying ordeal for his blind wife, Susy. The doll was stuffed with heroin, and when it cannot be located, its owner, a Mr. Rote, stages a piece of theater in an attempt to recover it. He arranges for Sam to be away from the house for a day and then has two con men, Mike Talman and a Mr. Carlito, alternately encourage or scare Susy into telling them where the doll is hidden. Talman pretends to be an old friend of Sam's while Carlito pretends to be a police officer. Despite their best efforts, they make little headway as Susy has no idea where the doll might be, leading Mr. Rote to take a somewhat more violent approach to getting the information from her. Voiceover off.
When you're blind and watching movies, what will you find? A blind superhero whose superpowers are acting like he's not blind. A sighted actor over dramatically touching people's faces. Or maybe the whole joke is that they're bumping into different places. A spectacular, macular degeneration. Tunnel vision to your television. And do they off this movie with audio descriptions? They're movie buffs who know their stuff. You'll be thoroughly entertained. Join Sky and Melissa throughout film history and Citizen White Cane.
Hello.
Hi.
And welcome to Citizen White Cane, the podcast where thoughtful critique of blind representation in film and TV is easy, but grocery shopping is hard. I'm Sky McLeod.
I'm Melissa Bukta. That is so true.
It's very true, and it's like sort of topical for this movie. It's a part of the plot, so thought that was just trying to make them
There you
more
go.
topical.
No,
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Thanks.
Very good connection.
Yeah, because that is like a very specifically relatable thing in this movie, which
Well,
is
the movie we're talking about, it was my turn to pick this week. And usually I'm the one who picks the lead balloons.
which I love.
Good,
I love
good.
the ones that are very dumb. They're my favorite. But I'll forgive you for picking this
Okay,
one.
good. Yeah, this week I made a happy accident. We are talking about the 1967 classic, Wait Until Dark.
Yes. It's from 1967. And it stars,
Oh, yes. The beautiful and amazingly talented Audrey Hepburn.
yes.
And the also, in this movie at least, completely sinister and terrifying, in my opinion, Alan Arkin.
It just, because we talked about this very briefly before we started recording, but Alan Arkin is just, he's too charming. Like,
You know,
he was not well cast.
I thought he was pretty brilliantly cast. He was very charming in the beginning, and then as the movie went on, he kind of just got less so, and then he became this horrible, awful, violent person. I mean, he does some pretty terrible
from the
stuff.
beginning, he like murders someone. We already know he's a murderer when we've like just met him, though.
Right, true. I don't know if I would say he felt more like oily and gross and sleazy to me rather than charming. I was just really afraid of him for most of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that. Well, that was the thing. It was like that cognitive dissonance of like I just have I think what it's not that it was not well cast. I think I just have too much of a fondness for him.
Oh yeah, no,
that was really the problem.
definitely. I mean, this is the wonderful, crazy, eccentric grandpa from Little Miss Sunshine. You know, and he straight up murders a woman.
Yeah, he's just, and he's also like, it is very funny seeing him with like a full head of like dark hair.
Oh, I know,
and,
right?
Like, very youthful.
He's so young. Everybody is so young in this movie.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's 1967, so, which I like saw the cast before I started watching. I was like, I don't even know if I'll recognize him because I'm so used to him being older.
I kept doing the same thing. I was like, okay, which one is him? Which one is him? Because I thought that Mike Talbot I was like, oh, that's got to be Alan Arkin because he's older. In fact, I mistook.
But it's 67, so Alan Arkin's
I know,
young.
I know. So I mistook Richard Crenna, who plays Mike, who plays Mike for Alan Arkin, and then obviously Jack Weston, who plays Carlito, is not Alan Arkin because he doesn't look or
like
sound
him.
anything
Yeah.
like him. So yeah, Alan Arkin plays Mr. Rote.
Yes, and well, he plays Mr. Rote, Rote Senior, Rote
Rote
Junior.
Jr., all of the Rotes. Yeah, yeah.
Because basically the movie is structured around, like, there's, I mean, I was going to make it simple, and then I'm like, it's kind of, there's a lot going on at the
Yeah,
beginning, and it's like you have to really follow it, because it's like a whole lot of setting this up.
Which I didn't. I was
didn't either.
so confused.
I had to, like, look up 5 different synopses, though, because, like, okay, I think I have it.
the voiceover plot synopsis that you just played, like a light bulb went off in my head. It was literally, oh, that's how it's supposed to begin. Oh, that makes total sense now. Because even at the end of the movie, I was like, okay, I get most of this. I understand,
Right.
but how are these two connected? I just don't understand. And like, because I'm just kind of like, wow, why is this doll such a big deal? And then I realized, oh, duh, because her husband is the one who smuggled it in.
Did it, like, on accident. Mm-hmm. Right. Well, because there's, like, it centers the MacGuffin of the movie.
Is a doll filled with heroin.
Yep.
Which is something I never thought we'd get to say on this podcast.
Really? I assumed we would. No. Yeah, it is. It is funny because it's also like when she's going, because it actually, one of the first scenes is in the airport with the character that we meet at the very beginning. And
Lisa,
then
yeah.
she dies.
Yes,
by Alan Arkin. But she's just like holding this doll, and like, and it is it's very weird because she's having her bag checked by the guy at the counter. Oh my God, so pre 9/11. It's just so pre 9/11. They have like, it's just like selling her the ticket, and then just like, oh, I'll just look at your bag. Okay, you're good to go. Like, oh, wow. And that's,
So here's my question.
Yeah.
Did she mean to give it to Sam, to Audrey Hepburn's husband, or was
Yes.
that a mistake?
so I believe it was not a mistake because it was, she saw that Alan Arkin was at the airport.
Aha.
And
Oh,
so it
gotcha.
was, I think, to get it out. But this
To
part
try
is
and
like,
get away from
this
it.
is one of the things that I had to look at like 5 synopses, and I still don't fully understand how it happened. And because I think that I think that Lisa is the name of the woman who gets murdered, and I think that she is in cahoots with like Mike and
Carlito.
Mm-hmm. So I think it's like the 3 of them have are in some sort of like they're a team.
That would make sense.
Because then Alan Arkin, like, I think is like, because he basically has to blackmail Mike and
Right, because we find out at the end Alan Arkin is the puppet master. He's been pulling all of the strings. He hired Mike and Carlito, even, and he knew that them and Lisa were connected, and he knew about Sam, and he knew about everything.
does he? I don't think does he hire them though? I thought he blackmailed them.
Well, he hires them, and then they're like, they get cold feet, and then he blackmails them. He's like, because that's where the fingerprints come in.
Well, because he hires them in person, though.
Right, because they all end up at Susy and Sam's apartment. And that's where they find Lisa in the closet.
Right.
And they get cold feet because this is all super sketch because they didn't think they'd have to deal with a body. And Alan Arkin is like, oh, well, but your fingerprints are all over this apartment now.
Right.
So
now you're in
you're in this.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Right, because they originally are like, no, we're not going to do it. It's not worth it.
Right. Because apparently, this kills me, Sam and Susy don't lock their fucking front door. Drives me crazy. I'm like, you live in a really beautiful apartment and you don't lock your...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is yeah, I guess none of this would have happened if the door was...
Well, and that's what I said. I kept questioning. I'm like, she could have just locked the door and been like, go away. However, knowing that Alan Arkin is a psychopath, honestly, the door would have been busted anyway. I mean, the police knock it down in the end, but the door would have been busted anyway.
Like, well, but I mean, but they're kind of like, as the 3 of them are trying to be... I mean, part of it is like they get their fingerprints over everything, so they want to like leave things as much as like in the same place as much as possible, or not, maybe not in the same place,
Well,
but like
Carlito goes to the icebox and just makes himself a sandwich and sits down. I'm like, what that's when I was really confused. I'm like, do you live here? What is happening?
Yeah, it is a very, it's hard because it's like you're given a lot of different characters at the very beginning. You have to like meet
Really
a whole bunch of different
fast.
characters. Yeah. And then one of them's already dead. Like, and that's the first character. Because we also like see Lisa at the first sees Lisa, and then someone's like actually putting the heroin in the doll and sewing it up, and I'm pretty sure that character is literally just there to do that.
That's
I don't
it.
think we
never see him again. Yeah, because she's coming from Montreal.
Right. Which it is kind of funny given how small a cast that there is we would need to have that. Like, I don't understand why we really needed. I guess we needed her to know the drugs were in it, but it's still.
I suppose also when you're adapting a play into a film, you are given the possibility you can go multiple places. Whereas in a theater, that's a lot harder, depending on the set and the play and everything. So I'm assuming in the theater, this whole entire play takes place in this apartment.
Yeah, and you could easily still do that in the movie.
Which is basically what they did.
Yeah, and they almost do it, which is why I always find it just kind of silly that it's like, do we need that scene to be...
So it's the same thing with Butterflies Are Free. Do you need the scene where they go to the clothing store and buy clothes?
Right.
Not really, but it's still in there because you can.
Right, because you can, but then, with that one, like, it is kind of weird, because I guess it's just to show that the drugs are in there.
Yeah,
but
that's all. That's all it is. They're setting up a bunch of Chekhov's guns. The doll, the knife.
The knife is... There's a few different knives.
There's a few different... I mean, Alan Arkin's knife. What did he name her? Georgette?
Oh, yeah.
It's the woman figure. I couldn't tell if it was the Venus de Milo or anything, but it's a hidden knife. There's a knife in there.
Right. Oh, and wait, it's hidden in the scope.
In the figure.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
You press a button and it shoots out of the bottom.
Does it matter that it's in that thing? Does that ever
Not really.
become relevant?
I think it's just a really cool knife.
Yeah.
But Susy does get a hold of it.
Right.
In the struggle.
But then it could have literally just been still a normal knife, though.
True. I don't know. I don't know. The doll is definitely the Chekhov's gun, though.
Well, it's more of a MacGuffin.
No, I think MacGuffin is correct for the most part. I define a MacGuffin as something that... Actually, yeah, I was going to say I define a MacGuffin as something that you're looking for, but it turns out to be a red herring, and it's almost never used, but it's the thing that drives the plot.
Yeah.
But a lot of
that's
MacGuffins get used.
Thing,
yeah. Okay, never mind. I take it back. It's a MacGuffin.
But then the knife. Is there another thing that is more of Chekhov's gun? Like, I don't know. There's a lot of setting things up. Yeah, I did really like this movie, though. I was just like trying to get all my thoughts in order before we were going to record, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be really hard to talk about, because it is like a lot of just like, it's like kind of like when someone is trying to tell you a story that's very boring, and you're like, what is the point of this story? And then it's just like very like long and winding, and you're just like, why are you telling me this? Like, there's no real message. Like, but I think it's not entirely like that, but I feel like us talking about the movie is going to sound like that. It's not that the movie's like that, but it's just like very hard to like, because you can't just say specific details about it like out of context, like, because it's all very context dependent.
Right. It's not a boring movie at all. It's actually a really taut thriller. Right. But it is very hard to talk about kind of the machinations of the plot.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Susy. Let's talk about Audrey Hepburn.
Her character is recently blinded.
Yes, by a car accident.
Yes. Which I think she says like a year ago. So
I think so, yeah.
Which I was like, wow, it's kind of impressive. She's going to school.
Yes, she's going to blind school. She knows Braille. She knows how to read and write Braille.
Yeah, which apparently Audrey Hepburn spent an entire year at like doing stuff with the Lighthouse for the Blind and like learning how to like be a blind person.
Because Audrey Hepburn is a goddess, and she is, I mean, she's just amazing at her craft.
She's really good at like playing a blind character.
Yeah, I was so happy because I was really nervous, mostly because I didn't want to watch this poor woman be victimized for an hour and a half.
Yeah. Which I am like, because I really hate the thriller horror, well, especially like horror movies. If it's like a blind character, I'm always like, oh my god, they're just gonna like, it's gonna be brutal. But it made me wonder. I was like, I wonder if they are all just like brutalizing the blind women, or if part of it is similar to this one, where it's kind of like, because no one ever expects like a blind woman to like kick ass, even though they really should. Like,
Well, and it's cool because her way of kicking ass isn't, you know, she doesn't know kung fu, she doesn't know martial arts. She's not beating Alan Arkin upside the head with her own cane. Yeah, she's not Daredevil.
She does kind of do some like what's the right word? Inventive fighting.
Yeah,
like
improvised fighting.
resourceful.
Yeah, because she just has to use what she has. But she's also not stupid.
Yeah.
She does start to figure it out. It takes a little bit, but hey, Mike and Carlito are actually kind of convincing. I mean, she's blind, so she's obviously never seen them before. She's never heard their voices before. So yeah, Carlito, for all she knows, is a sergeant. And
right,
for all she knows, Mike is her husband's friend, even though they're totally not.
Right. And we haven't, and that is the characters that the con men basically are playing, is like Mike is the friend of like her husband's, who is mostly the entire movie is on a truly red herring of a like because he's a photographer, but he's on a trip that was orchestrated by Alan Arkin to like make him not there for the whole time. So so Mike comes in as like a friend from the army, I guess.
Yes,
like her husband.
Yeah, he tells her that he was part of her husband's I think Charlie division or something like that.
Yeah,
but
so he has it like written on a piece of paper.
He has notes.
Where did they get that information? It's not like they Googled that.
I have no idea.
It's not really. It's not really said.
They probably just made it up. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, they couldn't have made it up because it had to be true.
Oh, right. Because obviously he was in the army. So
I don't know. Unless because some of it was things where I was like going back and I was like, oh, I think they did like sort of explain this in dialogue. Some of it also is like the 60s way of making movies is not, I'm not as tuned into those kinds of plot unfolding. I mean, some of it maybe is that I think some of it is visual and that's part of the problem, but it's also like, I think I don't know if this is true, but it feels like it's expecting you to rely on certain kinds of tropes that I wasn't relying on. I was like, you're just giving me a lot of information, I'm having trouble piecing everything together, like, whereas I feel like it was kind of made for a viewer in a different mindset, if that makes sense. I don't know, maybe I'm just imagining this, but it is very different from the way you would structure a plot in a modern movie.
You definitely cannot just put this on in the background. I mean, especially if you've never seen it before. You really have to pay attention.
Well, and it's also like, I mean, and sometimes movies are like this where it's like something you have to see twice. Like when you see it twice, the first half of the movie you'll understand it a lot more, but it doesn't spoon feed you exactly what's going on, but which is like great sometimes, but in this case I was just like, I'm just confused and there's like information I need to know, and I didn't fully get it, and so then I was like, is this meaning that they're being nicer to the viewer, or like that they're expecting more of the viewer? But if I can't figure it out, is it maybe their fault? I don't know. Right.
What I was having the most trouble with was the damn doll. How did the doll, because I didn't figure out that the person that the doll was given to at the airport was Sam. If I had figured that out, I would have had a much easier time trying to figure out the plot, because I'm just like, what? Give them the doll and send them away. I do not understand why this is such a linchpin.
Well, that's and that is part of the problem, is that like that's the first time we meet Sam. And so it's just each character, we're introduced to them, given very important information to the plot of what's going on with them. But it's like when we've met them, so we have no context for who this person is, and then we're getting all this important information, and you're like, okay, it must be really important, this person is the doll, but like, who are they? Wait, what is the relationship to anyone else? What is it like? And so then you can't like piece it all together, because you're like, wait, okay, so which character was this one? And some of it's kind of confusing because everyone doesn't know each other to some extent, but does to other extents.
And I know we're saying all of this now, but honestly, totally watch this movie. This is absolutely worth a watch. It is a really good movie. It's hard to talk about.
Yeah, it is. And it's also, I think it could just be, I really do think it's a time period thing too. I think that there is a little bit, yeah, I think that you would just structure a movie differently too. Because I don't know, maybe it is my fault. Maybe I just tune out more in the first 30 minutes of a movie, because it is, maybe now we just have more spoon feeding people what's going on in this world. And so maybe that's my fault for not being as attentive at the beginning of a movie. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't think that speaks ill of the whole structure of the movie. It's just, you have to pay attention a lot at the beginning, and then maybe you just rewatch the first 30 minutes before proceeding.
Well, I can definitely, so I can say that I was a little worried, because when we meet Susy, she comes home to the apartment while the three of them are still in it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh God, they're going to do the whole, we're going to hide and we're not going to breathe, we're going to say anything, and she's going to come in and hijinks will ensue. And that is kind of what we got. So it made me super nervous about her character, because I'm just like, I don't know, this is so unbelievable. But she could feel that bodies were in the room.
Yeah.
I truly think she could feel that bodies were in the room.
Or one,
because she keeps calling for Gloria, which is the little girl.
She was like, I can tell you're in here.
Right. The little girl that lives upstairs helps her out with the grocery shopping and stuff. So she keeps calling for Gloria, and of course none of them answer.
Right.
And yeah, she ends up leaving. But I think now, talking about it and thinking about it, I think that's just setting up the fact that she doesn't have superhuman senses, but she's not stupid.
Right. Yeah, it does walk that fine line of just being like believable things, but then it's not. Like, it has to be believable on both ends. It has to be believable that she would not catch certain things, but then believable that she would catch other things.
Well, what I thought we were going to get is the scene in Arrested Development where, with Maggie Lizer. Oh, dude, we need to talk about Maggie Lizer. Anyway, I thought what we were going to get is that scene where Tobias invades her house trying to get the paperwork back. And he's, like, being all stealthy and following her and getting in behind her and everything. And she's not noticing him. Well, air quotes, not noticing him.
Right.
So I thought that's what we were going to get. We didn't get that, thank goodness.
They were all very but it did kind of, it did also set up that, like, this is something, the way that they're behaving when she's the only one home would be very different from when Gloria's home or when any other sighted person might be around. Because, like, if you are dealing with a sighted character, you can't just be standing right next to the person.
Right.
Like, and that's, that's not a cover. You're not hiding. Like,
no, because your body, whether you want to or not, will make noises. Also, your body takes up space.
Right, but it is for a blind person. You could do you can do that more than you can if for a sighted person. That's you just can't. Like, that's just not an option. Like, they'll just see you unless you're hiding behind something. They're just gonna see you. And so I think it's set up that that there are certain things that they're able to do that would be different from a sighted person that just would just not be an option at all. But there's certain kinds of things, but it also shows their hubris that they're like, oh, we don't have to do that much to we can still kind of do a bunch of visual things that she's not going to see, and it will be fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think they thought that they were just going to be able to pull something over on this woman with all the things that they orchestrated, because she's blind and vulnerable and defenseless. And she's, and we're very easily going to get what we want out of her.
Right.
And in the end, they didn't.
Yeah, and it is kind of like, I mean, it is definitely sort of like a cat and mouse kind of thing that, yeah, it is weird because it's not, it could be a lot more scary because at the end the climax is very frightening.
Oh my God, that's the scariest part of this entire movie. It's absolutely
I
terrifying.
think of like any movie we've seen on this podcast, probably it's very scary. Which we haven't seen like a lot of the horror films that we could. So that's it's scary because it doesn't have a lot of runner-ups at this point. But like
yeah, I mean that, and it is almost in complete darkness.
Right,
Good chunks of it are in darkness,
and that's a good thing to talk about as well. But I think that but I think before the climax, though, it is not like it's just not as stressful in the way of it feels more like a game for a lot of the movie. Like, because I think you can like at the end it becomes actually scary, and you're actually thinking, I don't want her to get hurt.
No, because I honestly don't think Mike and Carlito had it in them to hurt this woman.
Right. They were much more playing the game.
Right. They can get angry at her. Like Mike gets very angry with her because he knows that she's not telling him what he wants. I mean, she tells him at the doll's at the studio. I think he knows the doll isn't at the studio, but he doesn't want to hurt this woman. He doesn't want to hurt Susy, so he leaves to go on the false errand.
Right. Well, and that's at the very end. But when he gets, even before that, he gets mad at her. And I think he is genuinely mad. For not. But he's like genuinely mad when she's like, I don't know where it is. But at that point, does she not know? Because there is a point where she actually doesn't know where it is.
Okay. Because, so for about 30 minutes. Yeah. 30 minutes, she has no idea what they're talking about or where this doll is. And Mike believes her, and then he leaves, and then we find out that Gloria, the little girl, had mischievously somehow, I don't know.
Yeah, we really don't have a lot of context for how that happened.
We have no idea, but she somehow finds the doll and borrowed it to play with.
Yeah.
And she's
kind of too old for dolls. She looks like she's like in her teens.
Yeah, probably. But I don't know. Maybe she just really liked it. I don't know. She just wanted to spend some time with it. But so Gloria has the doll, and she brings it back to Susy. So now they have the doll.
Right.
So she hides it, I think, kind of ingeniously in the washing machine.
Right. Because
who's going to look there?
It's also like, doesn't Mike actually help her put stuff in the washing machine near the beginning of the movie?
Yes, he does. Yeah, and she's loading laundry.
That's before she has the doll, so that it's also a good disguise because he would assume that would not be where it was.
Because, he's already helped her with it. So, exactly.
So then we have then she's needing to deceive them, because at the beginning she's kind of being deceived but really doesn't have any incentive to deceive them. At that point she literally doesn't know where it is, and that's what they want. It's like something she doesn't know where it is.
And then it just becomes this amazingly tangled web of who is double crossing who, because you find out throughout the movie that Alan Arkin is double crossing the two dudes, and she's double crossing them, and oh my God,
it's kind of like the end of that other Arrested Development episode where they're like, and that's why you never. But it's a cascading effect. That's like everyone's doing it to each other.
It's the one-armed man. Yeah,
exactly. And then it ends where it's all. Well, it's always the one-armed man is in the end, but that's why you never.
That's why you never forget to leave a note.
Well, it's always Oh gosh, but that is kind of the thing of like the cascading who's. But we kind of, I mean, the movie kind of, unlike the Arrested Development episode, it does. Every time we kind of know what every character knows at any given time.
Oh yes, absolutely. No, Susy is in the dark, like we said, only for about, pardon the pun, only for about 30 minutes. And then, that's true. Yeah. She's only not understanding for about 30 minutes. And then, and then it becomes who can play who the best.
Right. But then there's also there's the different revelations near the end. That's when she realizes that... Because there's part of it is there's a phone booth outside.
Right. This is really cool. So okay. So even before that, she's noticing different things. Throughout the movie, Alan Arkin's character comes in just to throw another wrench in the works. Maybe he thinks that this will get her to talk. I don't know. But he comes in, barging in as an old man the first time, which I thought was terrifying because I'm like, he just comes into her apartment and oh my God,
Yeah,
and
it's
what is
very
she going to do?
stressful.
And she doesn't know what's going on. Yeah.
And he
So-
doesn't look at all like him now.
No, and he doesn't sound like him. Yeah. So he comes in as
Which it
Mr.
should, though.
Yeah, yes. As Mr. Rote, and he barges in and he steals a picture off of her dresser and then leaves. And he's claiming that Sam, her husband, is having an affair with his wife.
Right.
That's the whole.
with Rote's Junior's wife.
Right. Sorry. Yeah. Rote Jr.'s wife.
Very
It's
confusing.
so confusing.
Because
Yeah.
the Rote Senior is which all of them are Alan Arkin, but like he comes in as Rote Senior first, and he's like the dad who's mad about the wife cheating on Rote Junior, and then Rote Junior comes in and is like seems less mad about it, and it's like my dad's really mad about this. It's very weird.
Yeah, you really should just give him what he wants because he's just so angry. But Susy realizes it's the same person because Alan Arkin doesn't change his shoes
Yeah,
in between
oh, yeah,
characters,
right.
and she hears the new shoes squeaking, and she associates that with Rote Senior.
Yeah,
And then when-
why would they have the same new pair of shoes
Right,
at the same time? Doesn't make sense.
That would be a real big coincidence.
Yeah.
So, so she figures that out. She also Gloria reveals, they're everyone's fiddling with the blinds.
Right,
And
that's
that-
a big one.
That's a big one because she's like, everybody is playing with my blinds.
She's like, it's winter time. Why would the sun is not out most of the time? Like,
Right.
it's mostly nighttime. So why would everyone be playing with the blinds?
That doesn't add up. And then she notices that every time someone plays with the blinds, there's a phone call.
Oh, yeah. I forgot that's, because
Right.
it's a signal
Right,
for
it's-
them to call.
So she puts that together. So after she gets them out of the apartment, Gloria comes back with the groceries, and Susy gets Gloria to go hide upstairs and look at the phone booth in her apartment. And every time there's a call made from the phone booth, she's supposed to ring Susy 2 times.
Right. And that, and then hang up so that Susy knows when.
It was coming from the phone booth. Yeah.
Right.
And oh my God, this is one of the scarier moments too. Is it happens and Mike is in the apartment with her, and the phone rings twice and then doesn't ring anymore, and Susy doesn't answer it because she's like, I'm trying to figure out if it's gonna.
Right.
Yeah. And Mike is like, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, must have been a wrong number. And I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah, because she is right next to it. She could have like really played it up, being like, "Oh, where's the phone?" Like just in the other direction.
Yeah,
but that
yeah.
would be a little more slapstick.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but then the part that she is really upset by is when because she thinks that Mike is for reals until near the very end when he is. When she because Mike's like, I need to go somewhere. I don't even remember what his thing is, but he's like, I need to leave, and if you find the doll, just give me a call, and then here's my number, which is the number for the
phone booth.
the phone
Yep.
booth. And
Yep.
so when when Susy finds the doll, I think right after she finds the doll from Gloria, I think, is when she calls Mike to tell him.
Close, yeah, because at this point the doll has moved from the washing machine to the garbage.
Right.
She hides it in the garbage and then hides that under the sink.
Why does she call him at that point?
Because at this point she still thinks he's Sam's friend.
But why didn't she call him when she found out the doll was there already?
Maybe she was trying to figure out if she could trust him.
But then it seems like she trusted him from the beginning,
Yeah.
but then kind of stopped trusting him once she found out he was part of it because of the phone.
Well, yeah. So
There's like some reason that she does. There's some like specific reason. I thought it was that she really did. Just it was when she had found the doll. When Carlito, I think it's like either Carlito or Alan Arkin. I'm just names right now. Like I think one of them is in there because it's like she waits until she's alone, I think, so she
Right.
can call just Mike because she does trust him. But I think it must be like once she's alone after the doll
it's
has
gotta
been
be
found.
Yeah. Oh no, it was definitely after the doll had been found. Yeah, because
Right.
she calls Mike to like, come over. I found it. You got to come over and get this doll. She hangs up, and then the phone rings twice and stops. And then the light bulb goes on.
That he's part of it.
That he's part of it, and he's been calling from the phone booth all the time. The sergeant's part of it. He's been calling from the phone booth all the time.
Right. And that now he knows. Now they know that she has the doll. Well, because part of why she has any vested interest in part of the con is that, like, they're saying that the doll is going to, because the body has been found of Lisa, who was
Right.
murdered at the very beginning. And
Right.
so they're, somehow it's kind of rationalized that the doll is going to be used in a court case to convict Sam of murder.
Yeah, and obviously she doesn't want to lose Sam.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like she needs to find it too. Which then it's also like she is afraid of fire. That's part of it. So, but it would be like you should burn it if it's.
Well, yeah, but also I don't think burning heroin is the best
Well,
best idea.
I know, but they would want to, like, it would not be in their vested interest
Well, I
either
think-
for her to do that. But if it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I need to get rid of this.
I think she kept the doll around because I think it must have been, it was either going to help convict Sam or help exonerate him.
Oh,
One of the two.
Was
Like,
it
that's-
that it? Was it that it was supposed to exonerate him?
I thought so. I thought that's why she would want to keep it, is because that was going to
well,
be
but she was
going to
give it to Mike, though.
True. Because, I mean, she wanted to get them out of the house. I don't know. I'm just...
Because I think it
Inferring.
was supposed to be used as evidence.
Yes.
I thought it was to convict him of murder. It's confusing. It is kind of hard. Some of this stuff, it's like, okay, I guess so. But I think it was just because he was given it. It tied him to Lisa, who died. So I think it was actually, no, I'm pretty positive the rationality was it was going to be used to convict, like,
Okay.
to
That makes
show that he was
sense.
guilty, which is why, because if she, like, if it was supposed to be evidence to keep her safe, then I guess because she's trying to hide it from the police. But if it was like to exonerate him, then then giving it to the police would make more
Would
sense.
have made more sense. Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot more sense.
But yeah, it is. There's a lot of things like that where you kind of have to, like, okay, I think I understand the logic behind all this, but a lot of it is very confusing. And
I think it was a really good decision to set the movie in her home, because now she doesn't have to run around with a cane. And not that that's a bad thing, but it also, if we're watching a blind character, I don't have to be like, oh wow, she's walking around like she's not blind, but she's in her home. She would know her home.
right. Well, and that's, I mean, I think it has to be in her home. I mean, I guess you could do a different movie, but the fact
Sure.
that she has the leg up on them is because she knows the house. And so that's how you can make her at a more even playing field. Like, if it was in a new space she wasn't comfortable in,
Right,
then
right.
there'd just be
There's
no
no way.
way.
Yeah,
It's just like
yeah.
completely, the cards are stacked completely against you, and you just couldn't, like, it. Yeah, it would be irrational to assume. But, like, she's able to hear something like the squeaking. Like, if you're in a new house, you could hear someone's shoes squeaking going downstairs. Like, you could hear it, but you could think it's the stairs, and it might not be as salient as if you are in, like, your own house and you're used to how stairs sound, and then you're hearing the squeaking and you're like, okay, that's the shoes. You know, like, there's all this, like, you're actually able to, like, get information. When most of it is, like, normal sensory information, then it's like it's way easier to pick out things like that. So I feel like, yeah, it would be. She would have to, and it also gives her this false sense of security too.
Right. That's what scares me the most, I think, about any home invasion movie, because I think you could classify this as a home invasion movie.
Definitely.
Is your home is supposed to be one of the safest places. You're in your home. You are safe. Nothing can happen to you. You're not going to get hurt.
How often? This is the thing I was saying. How often are just like 6 or like 5 strangers just randomly walking in and out of your house?
I know. Oh my God, that's crazy. Nobody people knock, yes, but then they come in and Susie's just like, oh, the door's open, come on in. I'm like, okay, maybe she's just super trusting, and I'm like, you're really not suspicious of any of these people?
I mean,
all
she's
right.
kind of suspicious of them. It's Mike that it does feel like she should. But here's the other thing too: is I was like, so much of this, like 90% of this movie, literally just no one could do any of this now. Like, there are so many technological things that make all of this completely impossible for the con people to do. 'Cause
Right.
It just would make no sense.
That, and the fact that she's just like, it's open, come on in. I mean, that sensibility is gone. Like, I would never
I mean, I did that to you just when you were coming in right now.
Well, okay, that's true.
But I think the difference is that back then it wasn't as easy to like call people. Like I think more often people would just show up at someone's house. Like that, like I hear my mom tells stories about doing that on, different occasions of like, whereas now, like it is so easy to like Facebook message someone, text them, like you also like just to get where they're living, you need to do that. Like,
it's all very much, even before the virus and everything, it's all very much planned out. I'm coming to see you at such and such time. Usually people will text, I'm here, open the door, or come. Well, I mean, because most people have their doors locked.
Right. Well, and it's just like I have I have had one time where a friend was like, hey, I'm in your area, you want to hang out? Like that doesn't happen very often. Whereas like it was still like we were texting each other about it. Like, because it used to be people were just like, if I'm going to see a friend, it's like because I'm in the area,
Right.
like, and so and if you're already in the area, then you're also just like, if you don't have if cell phones don't exist, then, and you're just in someone's neighborhood, you don't really have a way of telling them you're coming. So I think it was just like, there was a necessity for the culture to be different than it is now, but I think that's because of like technology, like the fact that it was that people that you knew wouldn't just come in to the house because you would know about it first, like, and they would be able to tell you they were coming over, whereas it makes more sense that they weren't aware. But I did actually look up the one technological advancement that would have made the movie completely not work.
Oh?
That was literally 1968, which was the introduction of 911 to New York. And if 911 existed, this movie would not work at all.
I didn't even think about that, because when she's asking for the police and the fire department and she's getting connected through the operator, I just assumed, because I didn't grow up in 1968, or
67
1967. Yeah, I didn't grow up in 1967. I just assumed she was calling 911.
No, because she even says the number of the police. He says,
Yes,
like,
she
because this
does.
is like a very specific, like, before the 70s basically thing where people would just be like, what is the local number for the police, which is so bizarre now to think about. But like it is like, because part of it is that which I was also like, maybe that's kind of like you have to suspend disbelief, but like, it is a rotary phone where you actually can hear, theoretically, the numbers a little bit more. But she gives him the number for the police, and he dials the number to the payphone across the street, not the police.
Right.
But if 911 existed, then he would need to be calling 911. And so she'd be able to hear he dialed 7 numbers as opposed to 3, because and it wasn't actually the fire department, so it would have still been a number for the fire department, but specifically the police was what in 68, because I looked this up in New York, when they introduced that for the police. So but he is calling the police multiple times and asked specifically for the police's phone number. So yeah, if it had been the following year, it wouldn't have worked.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool.
Unless
that's a
they're
neat
just
piece
like,
of information.
he's like, well, I'm just used to the old way of calling the number, which I guess maybe, but
Maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure if that would have worked.
Yeah, because he would have
been able to pull a fast one.
911. It's a new thing. It's the new thing we're all doing now.
Oh, that is crazy.
But I thought
that's so
funny.
interesting. Yeah.
But yeah, so there's a lot of things. Also, the fact that one of the main climactic moments of danger is when the phone line gets cut, which of course, if you had cell phones, is not going to be a problem.
Oh, that was horrifying though, when she's she's trying to call the police again because she gets Mike out of the apartment to send him to the studio, and then she does picks the phone line up and traces it across the room and realizes that it's been cut. Oh, and oh my gosh, and she freaks out, and I'm freaking out. Oh,
it is so funny because I have to admit that I actually had to watch that a couple times because as much as I was like, oh, 911 doesn't exist yet, I was just like, what is happening? What is that cord? What is going on? What does that mean? What does it mean that it's cut? I don't understand. And I had to watch it a couple times. I was like, oh, the phone's not working. Okay. There was I was just like,
maybe it's just my love of all things old or older movies or something, but once she couldn't get a dial tone on the phone, because I heard her hit so on a rotary phone there's these 2 buttons, like sensors or whatever, that that's how the phone knows when it's hung up and picked up. And so
Right.
she taps those buttons to try and get the dial tone back, and it doesn't happen. And then she follows the cord, and I was like, oh, yeah, okay, obviously he cut the phone line.
Right. Which makes perfect sense, and I should have been able to figure out. It was just funny that I could not. Yeah.
Well, and I don't know if you noticed this, but during one of the during one of her confrontations with Mike, it's one of them where Alan Arkin and Carlito are actually in the apartment at the top of the stairs.
He cuts it.
And
And
he grabs her cane and like.
Right, and when I saw that,
Yeah.
I was like, "What is that?"
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I did the same thing. I'm like, what is going on? Oh yeah. Okay, it's
Yeah,
the
it
phone
took
line.
me. It. I did get it. Like I did actually go back to be like, "What's happening?" Because she's screams. So I'm like,
she's
okay, something.
terrified.
Literally something important must have happened. So the fact that I have no idea what's going on and I don't understand why this is relevant, it's obviously I'm missing something. So then at least the giant reaction helped me to be like, okay, I need to go back and make sure I know what's happening because this is obviously something very important because I'm literally like, a cord? What's that? Like because this is like she's smashes all the lights after this, but I was just like, is it electricity? Like what is it? Yeah, so but I
Yeah,
did figure it out, so but, yeah.
So she's smashing all of the lights, and at first I was kind of thinking, what is she doing? And then, oh, okay, maybe she wants them to think that nobody is home.
That's so funny because I was like, why doesn't she do this? I thought that the whole time. I was like, wouldn't it be so smart if she just started smashing all the lights? That would be so smart if she did that. And I was seeing that like halfway through the movie, which is very funny that I could not get the phone cord at all. But I was like, why doesn't she just get... But then, you know what? I was like, you know why she's not smashing the lights? Because you can't film a movie with no light. And so
yes.
she had to wait till the very end when she should have done that from
Yep.
the second she stopped trusting them. She should have smashed all the lights.
Yep,
Because
yep.
that's... I mean, I guess Gloria being there.
Gloria
but,
would've
like,
needed a light, yeah.
especially once Gloria's gone.
Yeah.
Because I think she tries the phone after Gloria's gone, but she should have
Yes.
like let Gloria go and then smashed all the lights instantly.
Because she sends Gloria to the bus depot to go find her husband.
yeah,
Basically, yeah.
right to like and to get help. Well, she doesn't explicitly say to get help, which
No,
is weird because I'm
no.
like, why don't you get help before Gloria's gone to Sam?
Yeah, I don't know. She's so.
But that's when
She's-
she finds out the
she's-
phone's Ken.
Yeah, she's very fixated because she does try and call for help. Yeah, and that's when, and she's also very fixated on Sam. Like she wants Sam, because Sam is going to solve
safe.
whatever this is. Yeah, to be safe.
Right. Yeah, I guess why I mean I think just to that's true. Why would he be more able to I mean, he can see, so can Gloria. Which have we like really set up her character?
Gloria,
Yeah.
she's this little precocious kid that lives upstairs that helps Susy out with everyday tasks.
Yeah.
basically, and
Oh yeah, we did kind of set it up. I
Yeah,
could remember.
yeah.
It's
yep, she goes to the grocery store and that sort of thing.
Right. And so and they have a very like at the beginning a very adversarial relationship, and then like it kind of quickly morphs into kind of co-conspirators, especially once like Susy finds out she can't trust the guys. Like they're like the phone thing, they're like doing stuff to kind of one up them. But it is funny because like what exactly would Sam be able to do that the two of them couldn't do? Just be a man, basically.
Yeah, I guess. I guess that's it. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. But Sam does come with the police
Right.
because he figures out, and Gloria. He also manages to find Gloria too, because he figures.
Gloria finds him, I think. I would assume.
No, because Gloria is sent to the bus depot to wait for a bus from Asbury Park, but Sam was sent to a hospital somewhere else, so he wasn't going to be on the bus at all. So I have no idea how he found her,
right.
but he did because he and Gloria come back with the police.
Yeah. Wait, how did he find Gloria?
No clue. But I was very glad that he did.
Unless Gloria called the police.
Maybe she did at the
But
bus
then
depot.
they're still together, so somehow they met up before getting to that house.
Maybe-
Who knows?
I don't know.
This is part of the problem with talking about this movie. Is there's a lot of things, and occasionally there's ones where you're like, did I miss the explanation, or is this kind of confusing? And some of them I think it is like we both missed the explanation, but it's also confusing.
So let's see. I think we've gotten pretty much everything out of the way. Now we can talk about the climax.
Yeah.
So Alan Arkin by this point, has killed Carlito. And I wasn't sure.
Or killed Mike first, too. Right?
First it was Carlito and then Mike.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Because I wasn't sure. For a split second, I was super happy because I was like, oh my God, they figured it out and Carlito killed Alan Arkin's character because he's crazy.
Right.
Because he's a psychopath. So I was like, yes. And then Alan Arkin walks in and you realize, oh my God, he killed the other. It was the other way around.
Which it's shot so that I guess you can't tell who it is.
Right, exactly.
Because you see, and again, this is another weird framing of someone getting hit by a car. Not hit by a car. The other one was like in ice castles where she falls. But but that kind of like you just keep having like almost the same shot, and it's like,
and then the car is just running. It's running him over again and again, and I'm like, oh God.
But it's also like framed so that you kind of like see that there's someone there, but then it's like,
but you don't know.
But it's also like so easy to see how like it. Like, I think now there's everyone, like, with special effects makes things look so real, but it's just very obvious how you can edit it so that no one's getting hurt. Like, the way that it's framed, it's just, like, you obviously are editing it so you don't have to, like, see so that no one has to get hurt, because, I mean, practical effects are much more costly and complicated.
But he's probably driving over, like, a sack of potatoes or something, you know?
Right, well, that's the thing, is it's, like, you see there's actually a human, but then it's, like, it stops being anything like a human, and it's like once the car is actually coming into interaction.
And that also proves that you don't need. There was no blood. There was no sound of bones snapping. You know, there was nothing that cued you to. The sound, at least, that cued you to, oh, he's running someone over, and yet it was still incredibly disturbing.
It's funny. Maybe it's because I'm an editor, because I'm like, oh, so you're just like running into a fence. Like, this is so obviously nothing's happening, which is why I noticed it, because I was like, this is not scary at all.
Oh yeah, no, it felt. Oh no, like film brain is like, okay, obviously this is how they did this, and da 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 da, and that's
Yeah, I can't turn that off.
no, I totally get that, because for a couple of seconds I was like, oh yeah. And then I was just kind of like right back into the story, and I was like, oh my God, he's running over Carlito multiple times. Well, I didn't know it was Carlito at the time,
right? But
he's running over this person multiple times.
Yeah, it's definitely. Whereas in anything like that, especially with older movies, yeah, I'm just thinking like an editor, and I am not. I'm thinking about someone like framing the image and editing it, and I just cannot be in it when it's like something like that. But I think that's my weird brain. But that's why that was my main thought with the car.
So we go back to the apartment, and Mike is trying to get the doll out of Susy, and she's not giving up. And so my theory that he is not a violent person, and he truly does not want to hurt this woman. He doesn't want to hurt her, so he goes to leave. And, of course, Alan Arkin is on the other side of the door and stabs him to death.
Yeah, Alan Arkin is so weirdly brutal.
He's a psychopath. Actually, I had a dear friend of mine who got to play Mr. Rote in this play a couple of years ago.
I thought you were going to say a friend of mine was a psychopath who murdered multiple people.
Yeah, sure. No. Technically I have a friend who was a psychopath and murdered a lot of people, but he did it for a play. He did it for this play.
Okay, good. I was like, do I have to edit this out?
No.
Okay,
No,
good.
No. But yeah,
I'm glad
he got
you
to
don't have any real
me
murdering psychopath.
Me too.
But it is like, it's weird though, because I don't know what it is, but there is like a weird playfulness to him that, like, I feel like people who are that brutal don't have a good sense of humor, you know?
Yeah, but he enjoys it because he's sick and gross. And well, there's
that's not good enough of an explanation.
No, it's not. But Carlito and Mike do have a conversation about the fact that he is just evil for evil's sake. He likes to take it a step further because he can.
Right. Yeah, that's true, though. I feel like if you're like that, you're also not going to enlist other people to be buffoons for like a few days and orchestrate this complicated play. Like there's a silliness to that I feel like the person orchestrating that is not going to be that like psychopathic.
This whole thing is insane. I mean, they're bothering this poor woman. They've got her convinced of like all this stuff. Just so
complicated when his whole thing is like he like rapes and murders people. So it's like literally like realistically a person like that would just murder her, like,
Right.
and then try to find the doll. Like, there's no reason to really do any of the like buffoonery other than like
But,
that
okay.
that's your personality and you're not like a ruthless killer.
Sure. But I think he was always going to kill Mike and Carlito. Through this whole thing, I think he was always going to kill them, and he probably was always knew he was going to kill Susy too, even if she had given up the doll.
Right, but then why bother with any of it?
Because he's a psychopath.
That's not an excuse. I mean, also, like, I don't think I don't know. I think there is a little bit more, but first of all, there's like the teaming up with them in a way. Does it ring true to me? I guess I don't know. It's just like the fact that
Well, he didn't necessarily team up with you
like,
said it. He
quote,
blackmailed
unquote.
them.
Right. Right. But it like just the fact that his plan so much involved the behavior of other people seems weird. Also, that he would just like just the delayedness of it.
Because I think he gets his rocks off by fucking with people. He wants to be the puppet master. Why bring in Rote Senior and Rote Junior?
Right. Well,
There's
that's the thing.
no
It's just
point.
so bizarre.
It's so convoluted.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's why it's weird though, because I feel like a lot of like really psychopathic serial killer people did just it's not like a ridiculous theater, you know.
But then maybe that's
it's like just more brutal. But
Right.
he's like super brutal, but then he's also like he's willing to just do this completely ridiculous.
so
like-
that's his modus operandi. He's the killer whale that plays with the seal before he eats it.
But is that like, does that, I mean, I don't really follow true crime stuff because I'm like, whatever, there's enough horrible things in the world. But is that actually how anyone's ever behaved, though?
I mean, again, I'm kind of like you. I don't necessarily follow a lot of true crime. If I'm going to listen to true crime, I'm usually listening to something about a cult.
That's literally me too.
But
very obsessed with cult.
Yeah, so I can't speak to like how serial killers behave because I don't know a lot about famous serial killers. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't answer that question.
The fact that they actually have something they're trying to get is like the drugs in the doll. So they have like a goal. So the fact that he's like I guess he has to be a murderer because that's what sets up the doll as being relevant. Like you couldn't like that's the only way that the doll is relevant to Susy, because why would she be looking for something that's doesn't matter at all to her? Like they have to convince her that the doll matters, so they use his previous murder to do that. But like their plan in general though seems like something that you would do as con men, but like not like it is there's different modes. Like con men is not like serial killer.
Right. If we take Alan Arkin out of the equation,
Yeah.
and it was just Mike and Carlito, no one would have died.
Right.
I don't think
Definitely not.
I don't think these guys are. I don't want to say not smart enough because I think Mike is pretty smart, but
they're con men.
They're
and
con men,
yeah,
yeah.
con men don't generally kill people. I don't think that's really. I mean, that's kind of not the point of it.
Right. You want to pull your con or whatever it is, get in, get out, without leaving a trail. Murder leaves a trail.
Right. And it's also like cons have a completely different like thing you're trying to do. Like you're trying to get someone to trust you, and I think a lot of people like you talk about a con men who like still people that like were obviously fucked over by them still because of that trust that person has built. This is not always the case, but like because of that trust the person has built, they still don't see it as a con in some cases. You know, like it's about getting someone to trust you.
Right.
Whereas a serial killer most of the time is just like trying to get in and out of killing someone. And like, and then leaving. Like, you do not want this fucking mess. Like, you don't want all this stuff. Like, and Alan Arkin does say this in the movie. He's like, you know, your fingerprints are all over everything. And so, like, he's thinking in that way of, like, get in and get out. And that's kind of his whole mode. Like, that's his whole thing from the beginning.
If you notice after that, everybody's wearing gloves.
Right.
I mean, obviously, Susy can't tell that they are. But him and
Which
everybody's
should
wearing
have
gloves.
on a few occasions. Because he will, like Mike will take off the gloves whenever he has to hold her. And I was surprised that they didn't have, because at one point she like falls and he holds her and I'm like, he didn't take off his gloves, but she doesn't notice. I'm like, she would have noticed that. But I was surprised because I assumed they were going to have something where she noticed that
Yeah.
he's wearing gloves,
Why
but
are
it was
you
like
wearing
too
gloves?
early on, I
Yeah.
guess, for him to like that to be revealed. So that I was like, hey, she would have known that he was wearing gloves. But that's the thing though, is Alan Arkin's character in that monologue makes him seem like the kind of person who just goes in and out and then is gone and is not gonna like sit around for days in a van like waiting for them to like make a fool of themselves.
which is what he did.
does.
And yeah, and then you find out that he's evil. There's nothing redeeming about this man. He's an evil guy.
Well, he like murdered someone at the beginning though, so I don't. Did you feel like he wasn't evil at any point?
I hadn't figured out that he murdered Lisa.
Oh, really?
Nope.
Wait, at one point, because he say he murdered her when we first meet. That when the three of them first meet up.
I can't remember if he did or not, or if he did, I missed it. Because
I knew that he murdered her.
Okay. I mean, I eventually figured it out, obviously, but
Because
yeah.
who else would, I guess,
Right,
that's what I was
right.
thinking. Like, it wasn't them. Like, it wasn't Sam and Susie who murdered her. So, and they had just arrived, like, Mike and
Carlito.
Carlito.
I have to keep saying it because I'm going to mess it up or I'm going to forget how to say it.
Yeah, no, that's very helpful, though, because I don't know why, but it's, like, a name that I was like, oh, wow, I'm never going to be able to actually have this in my memory. Like, when I saw it, I was like, okay, this is definitely a name I'm never going to have in my memory. I don't know why.
You know, I think actually a really good person to ask about Mr. Rote in general might be my friend, because he had to play him. He had a chance to get inside of this character's mind.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of like he's like a classic, chaotic evil character.
Yes, I would say.
But then he's just like, yeah, when push comes to shove, he is just more kind of just like ruthless and like, because that's the thing, is he gets the doll and then he still murders Susie, or still tries to murder Susie. And I guess we said we were going to talk about the climax.
Right. So we might as well talk about it. So
yeah.
So he stabs Mike, and Mike falls down the stairs, and Susie finds him. Obviously, she almost trips over him and finds his dead body. Pretty much all the lights in the house are out except for one light in the kitchen.
Or no, in the light room, or in the dark room.
Oh, the dark room. Sorry. Yeah.
Which is ironic, I guess, that the one light is in the dark room.
In the dark room.
But
yeah.
This is the thing that I couldn't figure out. Was because I was thinking if they really turn off all the lights, then we're only gonna be able to hear what's going on, and that can be and they do. That's part of the thing. That's part of this climax and the cinematicness of it. But I was like, you have to make a specific choice if you want to tell the viewer anything visually. You have to wait until before all the lights go out.
Yeah.
So is there any plot reason other than cinematography wise to have that light on, or a reason why she wouldn't have been able to like turn the light off? Because she like starts smashing lights.
Yes,
So she's not unwilling to smash things.
Right. I think that's interesting, because I was having the same thoughts too during the climax, especially with all the lights. No,
Right.
I think a lot of that was having the lights and the matches and everything at intervals. I think a lot of that was visual, for cinematography wise for
Right.
us, because film is a visual medium. I mean, she didn't need the lights, but we did.
Right, but the question is like, was there any reason why that character didn't also destroy that light? Because I was trying to figure out, does she think she turned it off? But then she can't just turn it off. She has to like really make it so that it's not easily. I mean, I guess they don't know the house, so it would be hard to like find the switch. But no, you would want to do something. I mean, at least unplug it, do something to like destroy it. So, because she takes the bulbs out, which also like, oh my god, she just takes the bulbs out with the lights on.
Oh, I know. That's terrifying.
So she just and she's afraid of fire,
Right,
but she's willing to burn her hands.
Well, not only that, she smashes them. She's not taking them out. She's smashing them.
The first couple she
she
takes
does
out,
take
and
out.
then
You're
she
right.
smashes them. But all of that, I was like, oh my god, like you're afraid of fire, woman.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
like really dangerous.
No. I've had
She called the fire department with
For
cigarette wasn't fully out. and she can smash these lights. I mean, that's kind of
She's also in full-on desperation mode by this point.
right, which that makes it
Mike,
at least
yeah,
better.
Mike and Carlito are dead, so it's her and obviously Sam. She thinks that Sam isn't coming, so it's her and Alan Arkin.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it makes sense, but I'm also like, you know where the light switch is, because in the beginning of the movie we see her turn on the lights because they're all dark, and like she doesn't care, but Sam's like, turn on lights, it's dark in here, which also he's like developing photos, so I'm like, isn't it dark because you're developing photos? Isn't that why it's dark? I don't know, whatever.
That was the brightest dark room I'd ever seen.
I know.
Anyway, but yeah.
So then we have this one light, which I couldn't tell if it was that she didn't, like, she tried to turn it on, because she like reaches around it and isn't able to and doesn't turn it off. So it's really, I was having trouble figuring that out. But if it's not explained, it's obviously for the cinematographer's benefit.
It has to be,
Like,
but we have to have some kind of a light source.
Right.
So Alan Arkin backs her into a chair, basically. And oh my God, this part was awful because I was
really horrible.
I was terrified for her. I was so scared because I was like, what is he going to do? Because we don't know what he's going to do. Obviously, he's capable of doing lots of awful things. So what is he going to do to this woman? I mean, the whole thing with
and everyone's gone or dead.
Everyone's gone or dead. And so he's got her in this chair and he's like playing with this scarf or whatever. And he keeps hitting her, not hard, but like hitting her in the face.
Which,
and
like, what?
Freaking her out.
Why was
and
he doing that other than to just
freak her out?
Yeah,
because he's a monster.
I mean, it's so weird too, because she was just like, "What? Stop doing that!"
Right. Well, that is the worst thing. If somebody keeps tapping you on your shoulder and you look over and there's no one there, that's awful.
Though I guess if you're a blind person, the idea of like having a random stimuli, I mean, it's scary,
not cool.
But this guy is just scary. I mean, it's scary because you have like a known murderer in your home and you're alone. I mean, that's the scary part. I feel like the scarf is not what's scary about that situation.
What I was terrified of is like, what is he gonna do with it? I mean, he could blindfold her. He could choke her.
Well, there's no reason to blindfold her, but he could choke her. That would be the one thing. I mean, gagging her would also be, but then. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter, though. She's not trying to communicate with someone.
Right.
Because she's alone with him. So he could gag her, but it also wouldn't, like, there wouldn't really be a good reason to do that. Hanging her or something like that would be, or strangling her would definitely be scary. But he is just, like, kind of just putting it on her face. I thought it was kind of weird.
Well, and then he comes at her with his hand, which is in a plastic glove.
Right.
And he like caresses her cheek and she's like, what is that? What is that? And I'm like, oh God.
I did like that though, that she's just like, because it's like when you're afraid, like something like that is not, if you're with someone that you trust, like them doing that to you would just not feel very like aggressive at all. But it's just like in that scary situation, like something that is so like harmless, the fact that it's that, at least I kind of like that, because I'm like, that's true. Like if you don't know what sensory information is coming at you and you're in a scary situation where you're unsafe, like that even something that is totally innocuous would be really terrifying, especially because you don't know what it is. Whereas like in a more calm sense, you'd be like, oh, it's a scarf that why are you just, what, like, you know, it's like your annoying brother.
Yeah,
why do you
exactly.
what's with the scarf, dude? Like that would be the reaction.
So what Alan Arkin doesn't know is that she has filled a vase full of flowers with gasoline. I couldn't read the chemical on the side of the thing. But
I paused it, but it's like basically gasoline of some kind. Something that's flammable.
Okay, because I was like, is this a photography chemical? Because it's from the dark room.
Yeah, right.
Because I think it's from the dark room.
I think you're right. Yeah, yeah.
So, but it's some kind of chemical that obviously you shouldn't put in your eyes. So she tells him like,
but it's flammable. It's the big thing too. Yeah.
So she's like, I have the doll. I'll get the doll for you. I'll get the doll. Just let me go. I'll get the doll. So he does, and she gets up. And she goes for the vase of flowers and turns around and just smacks him and hits him in the face with this chemical. Because actually before this, he had spread gasoline all over the apartment. And what is that? Oh, and she smells it. She's like, oh my God, it's gasoline. It's gasoline.
And he has matches.
Right, because he keeps lighting these matches in front of her.
Which is also just like, wouldn't he, I mean, it's at the staircase. He needs to get out. Like, because he's on the same side, like, because we have Mike is, like, dead, blocking the staircase. Both of them are on the other side of the staircase, and the only door is past the staircase. So, like, no matter, if Mike is on fire, he's dead, too. Like, how does he get out safely? if he can't get out the door. And we know there's no back door because they actually do say that at the beginning of the movie.
Right. I mean, all he has to do, honestly, is hop over Mike, douse Mike with gasoline, and then light Mike on fire. And it'll catch.
Right, but
and
then
he
how
hops
does...
out the steps.
It does, but how, yeah, does he just has to like go to the stairs first? But,
Yeah.
But during the scene where he's like, don't fuck with me, I have a lighter. It's like he is obviously not he's obviously in the house, and many of the times it's actually easier. It would be easier for Susy to jump over Mike. Like, she's closer
Right.
to the stairs,
Yeah.
and she knows the house, and
Yeah.
she knows, even though she'd have to like jump over him. Like, it just seems dumb for him to set it on fire when he can't get out of the house. That seems like a bad choice. And, like, but he keeps being like, I'm going to set it on fire. I'm going to set it on fire. It's like, you would die. Like, what are you doing? But I don't know.
I'm hoping it's just a scare tactic, because I don't think he wants to burn the house down, because then he'll never find the doll.
Well, at that point, doesn't he have the doll?
No, this is before, because she douses him with gasoline, or the chemical, and then the gasoline, so that he can't light the match, because if he
Right.
lights the match, he'll go up in flames. And then I think there's another altercation of some
Yeah,
kind.
because there's like, it's like 4 different
Yeah, oh my
spaces.
god, 'cause they fight each other. Yeah, because she tries to get across to the kitchen, and he grabs her, and yeah. So there's knives involved. It goes dark for a lot of it, and all you hear is just her and him, and then there's light, and then there's dark, and then there's light.
And there's the matches and like the light at one point.
It's really brilliantly done. I mean, it's a really
It is
well
cool.
staged. Yeah, and it's
And then we get to
terrifying.
kind of go between their like that we have a dark room, so some of it is kind of technically from her perspective, which is kind of cool. That, and also like I do appreciate that when it's like, if you're gonna make a film about a blind person, that's cool, because you could do things like having it dark for a while.
Yep.
And like when people don't do that, I'm like, but this was your opportunity. You don't have to like make something visually like stunning for when it's like unbelievable that a blind character would care about that. You know, it's like, I like movies that
Right.
are more geared towards the blind experience.
Oh yeah, and then he backs her up into the kitchen, because she says, it's over here, I'm gonna get it, and she grabs the knife, and he doesn't see her, because she
Right.
does it behind her back.
Yeah, because there's like a few times, and then she like stabs him when he's like going to rape her. But it's also like, from our perspective, we can't tell what it all is happening.
Right, because then the lights go out. Yeah.
Right, because that's when she breaks the final lights,
And then
I think.
and then we're plunged into darkness.
But you can kind of like, but maybe there's like a little bit of a light in the bathroom or something. I don't know, because you can
Something.
kind of, you can see someone's being stabbed, but you also hear, but there is like, you see that two people are like right up against each other, but it is very unclear who stabbed who, because at that point they both
Right.
have a knife.
Yeah, because she screams, and I'm like, oh my god,
Right.
he killed her. I was so upset,
Yeah.
because I was like, she is so cool, and she's been amazing through this entire movie, and I just don't want to see her die.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I was like, it's probably that he, just from like my writerly brain, he definitely like didn't stab, like it's definitely she stabbed him, especially because why would we see her like kind of put her hands behind, like why would she have seen that knife? That is kind of, it's a Chekhov's gun when you're already in the third act, but but it's like obviously she has to stab him at some point with that
Right.
knife, and so even though he also has a knife, like yeah, I assumed it was that she was doing it, but they also make it so, like, they really do try to tip it so that you think it's him stabbing her. Like, it definitely, because she's screaming. Like, I think she's the one screaming. So you're like,
Yes,
that
yeah.
is a weird,
Yeah.
like, why would, when you stab someone, you're the only one screaming? But it is what it is what it
yeah.
was.
Yeah. And so she runs to the kitchen to actually get the doll, and then he crawls after her, and he's bleeding, and he's like stabbing the knife into the carpet and trying to get up, and I'm
Very
like,
much like, here's
oh my
Johnny.
God, yes, terrifying, and he,
It's very scary.
yeah,
And well, because at one point he like fucking jumps out from
Yes.
like the shadows.
Yes,
It's
yes.
so horrible.
it's awful. Yeah, it's so well
like,
done, but it's so
literally-
awful.
I think I actually did jump. Which, I mean, like, I don't know. That's why I don't like horror movies, because, like, blind people especially are very prone to that. So it is just any, like, jump scare will jump, because it's like, oh my God, this is a stressful thing. There's noises. But it is really terrifying, because you also think that at that point, because she's trying to leave from the window because she can't get out to the door. Which also, at that point, is it just because of Mike that she can't get out? to the door?
Maybe.
Oh, no,
I mean,
it's that he is in front of.
Yes.
He has the knife, and
Yes.
he is chasing
Yes.
her to the wall,
Yes.
so she can't.
And so
get out.
now they're here, and he has the doll, and he had gotten to the table and had been unloading the cocaine out of the doll, and I was convinced, because she's just standing there by the fridge, I was convinced she was going to stab him. That's what I would have done. He's
Right.
occupied, but of course Alan Arkin's not stupid either, and he keeps looking behind to make
Right.
sure that she doesn't do anything stupid.
Yeah.
And then then I think they end up by the icebox.
Right, and then but then after, that's before she stabs him, after she stabs him, then we also still have, she goes back over there, and he opens the door to the icebox, and so she's also trying to close the door.
Yeah, I wasn't exactly sure what was going on. I was like, why? Unless she was trying to close it so that she could plunge the room into darkness again.
Yeah, that's what she was trying to do, but I think it's like he had put something so that it
So that
can't
she couldn't-
close.
yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
because he so that's what she's trying to do, is to close it, and then she's trying to unplug it, and she can't figure out where to unplug it. But then it's also like, but then I was just thinking, like, ideally she could just get out of this house, but she's just really very literally backed up against the corner, like extremely literally. And so she just has, it's just the door to the fridge being open.
Yeah.
But it's also like, it's to keep, I think she's trying to unplug it so that she can keep the door as a shield, because it
Yes.
is actually very helpful for her to have it open.
Yeah, it's a pretty good sized icebox, and there's enough room between her and the wall and the icebox for her to get in there, open the door, and she has a barrier between her and
Right, and I think
Alan Arkin.
does she open it so that she can do that? I don't remember, but she
Something-
definitely uses it being open.
In their fighting, I think it just kind of happens, maybe. Yeah,
But
something
it does.
like that.
But it does mean that if she were able to unplug it, then she'd still have the shield, but he wouldn't
Right.
have the light. But she's.
Right.
But then when the police come, I think she does. She has figured out how to unplug it.
Yeah, because the lights go out one more time.
Right, because when they come in, they have flashlights, and they're like, "Where is she?" Which is funny, because they're making noise, and then they find her, and she's like cowarding. But then their mate is obviously Sam. Like she knows who it is.
Yeah. But granted, she has just gone through like a whole day of assholes coming into her house.
That's right.
She's probably not,
Gonna
all
right, because I was like, is it that she's
She's
worried she
traumatized.
can't trust that, like, because the fact that they come in with the police, like, if it was just Sam and Gloria, you would think, like, these are two people I know are safe, like, I'm going to be like, hey, I'm here. But I guess the
That's
fact that the
true.
police also come in, and
right.
it's
but
like, what?
She'd also been like fighting for her life for the past 20 minutes. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, but it's
she
like,
might
but-
not be in the right state of mind to be like, oh, that's Sam and Gloria.
I mean, I guess so, but she is like, once they do come to her, she's like, oh my god, thank you. Like, she is extremely happy to see them, and like also very happy that they find her. So it is kind of silly that she wouldn't, because I was thinking, like, no one in that position would just, unless they really didn't think it was anyone they knew and were still scared. I mean, like, because she's trying to get Sam, she's trying to get Gloria, she's trying to get the police, and so now you have all three of those things in your house.
Right.
It is weird that she says nothing, which is like
Yeah.
basically just makes us think that she's dead because all the lights are out, and it's
Well,
not fully explained why she wouldn't say
that's an
anything.
old Hollywood trope to do a fake out to make you think the main character has died. I mean, that's
right,
old,
but
old,
it's not.
old.
It's not really. It's not believable that that's what.
No, well, and of course we find out that she managed to stab Alan Arkin to death, or B, he bled out finally from the
Well, yeah,
wound
because she already stabbed
because
him.
she got him once before.
Right,
Yeah.
Well, and that is the thing, though, too. It's like sometimes when I think even when you like shoot people, there is a time where they are alive. Like in a lot of movies, it's just like you instantly are dead, and so it's like that's not actually how it happens. Like when people get like wounded, brutal, like to the point that they do die, it's not like instantaneous. So it's not actually usually probably going to be the most effective thing if someone is like a completely active threat that they're
I
going.
guess. I mean,
but-
depends on where the wound is.
Right.
But
That's true. Yeah. That's true. But it's like, if you get in the stomach, especially, I think is one of the main ones. It would be like a long time.
That
And
takes a long time.
I think that's where she stabs him too. So, but
the stomach or the back, one of the two.
Yeah. Don't stab. It's stabbing people in the back. It's
yep. But the main point is Alan Arkin is dead, and she ends the movie in Sam's arms, with him remarking that him or her remarking that she is in fact the champion of blind girls.
Yeah, it is very funny
because that was a running joke between them.
Right.
Yeah.
Do we want to do the clip I set up? It's kind of at the beginning.
Yeah.
But this is a clip when Gloria and Susy, basically when we meet Gloria.
Yeah, this is the altercation at the fridge. The icebox. Yeah.
And it starts. Gloria comes in to pick up the grocery list, basically, because she needs to go shopping, and they get into a fight. Susy and Gloria do about just like because Susy says like you need to turn the fridge to defrost.
Gloria says you need to turn. Gloria's like there's just a temperature, just turn it to defrost, and Susy gets mad because that's not the way Sam does it.
What's Sam's way then? I'll go to the A&P.
Did you close the door?
Yes.
But I didn't hear it shut.
Okay, so it's open.
Please shut the door.
Close it yourself. You're nearer.
Gloria, close the door.
No!
Gloria!
No, I won't!
Listen, you little monster, I won't put up with this one more minute.
Starts throwing things.
What are you doing? Stop it! Stop it! Gloria, do you hear me? Stop it! Stop it!
And then Susy starts picking up the items that have just been thrown. And she's like feeling around for them with her foot, which is very cute.
I do that too.
I know, I do that. The way she picks things up is so...
It's perfect.
Yeah. And then Gloria comes to help. Which is why the music changes.
You shouldn't have called me names. I don't call you names.
You're right, I shouldn't say things like that. It was wrong of me.
It's okay.
It isn't okay. People shouldn't say things like that to each other. They're mean things, and people shouldn't say mean things. Just I get terribly frightened sometimes. I'm not a very good blind lady, Gloria, and I'm still not used to all this dark brown. I get cranky and impatient, and I know I look dreadful half the time.
Oh no, you're gorgeous.
What a lovely thing to say. Thank you, Gloria. I do wish I could do things. You know, important things like cook a souffle or pick a necktie or choose the wallpaper for the bedroom, you know.
Sure, I know.
So important.
I want to be gorgeous. Guess you can't have everything, huh?
I guess not.
They hug.
I'm sorry, Susie, for being horrid.
Me for being an old crank. Did we break anything?
Oh no, I only threw unbreakables.
That was crafty of you.
I learned it from Daddy.
Okay, Pumpkin. Let's keep...
Ooh,
Oh, yeah.
that has a lot of conversation. Yeah, I didn't catch that the first time around. Also, I only threw Unbreakables. That's when I fell in love with Gloria. I was like, this kid is great.
This is like the clip starts when you basically just met her. She's like a little shit at the beginning.
She is a little shit at the beginning. Yeah,
She's
yeah.
just so like she's a rude, and then she like opens the door and then lies about it, like because she can, and then like yeah, but and it's like completely unfounded because it's just like yeah she's but then you kind of you're won over to her in that scene. But I just love how also the two of them God, it's so the 60s. The things that are important are the most important things are looking good and
Sure,
baking a
I mean-
souffle, picking wallpaper, a tie.
Because yeah, I mean, but she's she's a wife.
Right, but it's
I mean,
that's the
those things-
60s. This
right.
would never, that dialogue would never be in a movie now.
Well, maybe I don't know. Who knows? I don't probably not.
I don't
but-
think so. I mean, like it's pretty stereotypical. Like
Yeah.
60s woman
But I mean,
things.
she and Sam are, they love each other. So I don't think it's wrong or for her to have those particular wants and desires. Yes, as as free and independent women of 2020,
Yeah.
I don't want to do any of those things. But I
think a lot of
that's what
women in
she
the
wants, she
60s felt
wants.
oppressed by that, though. Like,
yeah, but I don't think Susie's oppressed.
I'm technically, but I don't know. I think she sort of is. She's not. I mean, I think that she's a very independent person, but it's not in a world where that's like really allowed. And I mean, I think technology. Why I brought that up a lot is because I think that it would have given her a lot more independent, like the combination of technology and the expectations of men and women, like would have given more. Also, the fact that she is instantly trusting of her husband's friend that she doesn't know about. Like, I feel like
Sure,
now
yeah.
a relationship you would know
Right.
who your husband's friends are.
Right. But just I'm a friend of your husband's. Okay, so you must be a good person. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Sure.
They use, I feel like a lot of it is like in the in common times, if you were to do many of these things, it would not work for a blind, like to con a blind woman. Like there's just so many more tools that we have, and like also the gender dynamics are different. But I mean I think that that's an important thing, because I feel like we have a character who is expected to do very little, and that's kind of how the character's set up, is like not there's that she's expected to do what a woman is expected to do as a housewife, basically, and that is something she can't do because she's blind, which is just a very sad thing of like your expectations are already so limited unfairly, and then on top of that, the expectations you have, you also struggle to do. Whereas now I can be like, I want to cook, and that's
Right,
not
yeah.
always gonna be the expectation.
Yeah.
And like I think that just makes it all the more oppressive when it's like you don't get the options that men do to have all these different occupations or hobbies, and maybe why we see a lot more male blind characters, because they do have power. I mean, my dad his dad would be probably a little bit, probably maybe a little bit older than Audrey Hepburn's character, but he was blind, he was a rocket scientist. Like you're allowed to do that like as a man, but like his sister, who's also blind, was not a rocket scientist, because that's there's a lot more. She taught preschool, I believe, but the expectations of what a woman and a man can do are very different. Like there were definitely not other blind women rocket scientists at that time. It was weird to be either one. But yeah, so I don't know. I thought that was interesting, to kind of that combination of the gender dynamics and the blindness and the implications of that. But yeah, blind women movies can sometimes be hard to watch because of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Do you disagree with that?
I don't disagree that women were oppressed or could be more oppressed back then, or in the 60s or the 50s. And I don't know, maybe Audrey Hepburn's character was much more independent of a woman, and then she got in an accident, now she's blind, and now she thinks or wants a man or a companion so that she can get by in the world.
Oh, I don't think that is not how I read her character
Okay.
at all.
Yeah.
I don't know. She seemed like she was just kind of like, she also just seemed like she's very confident in her blindness, which actually was surprising to me for being blind so recently. But it made me assume that she was just a confident person, since I think like most people a year into being blind, if they're an adult, they're still learning how to be confident.
Yeah.
It does take longer than a year. So I just assumed that she must be a very confident person generally if she was able to adapt that new identity so quickly.
Well, I can say one thing. It was wonderful to watch a confident and competent blind woman,
Yeah.
you know, just be awesome and survive a home invasion.
I know. It did the gasoline stuff, or I guess it was probably not specifically gasoline if it was whatever the thing that was flammable.
Well, it was both, because she smells it when Alan Arkin is pouring it on the ground, and she goes, "That's gasoline."
Right, but then the thing that she throws, like I wouldn't.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't think to like put that in a plant.
Oh, I
like,
know,
because
right?
when she makes that decision, I was just like. You know, because obviously blind woman character, I'm like putting myself in her shoes every step of the way. And so I'm just like, at that point, I'd just be terrified and have no idea what to do. Granted, I like just the idea of like not having access to a phone, like because my brain is going to like 40 different things that would not be possible.
Yeah, and
in the non-cell phone era.
Yeah, no, having absolutely no communication with the outside world, I think, is what scared me the most.
Right. And I think that maybe people in the 60s are just more, I mean, I think that their like decision tree was more adept at like thinking of creative solutions in that. Like, because, you know, our creative solutions are probably going to be mostly involving things that don't exist at
More
that
than
time.
likely.
Yeah, so
more
I
than
think,
likely.
you know, I don't know. Do you have like that thing where you realize you have like you can cycle through creative problem solving things like in a situation that is like catches you off guard or something like that?
I suppose. I mean, a lot of the jobs that I worked at, I had to be creative
Right.
in problem solving.
Right. I think that's like probably pretty universal for blind people and I think probably most disabled people too.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to find new ways to adapt, and most of the time when you're figuring it out, there's not a manual that says do this and this and this and this. You have to just throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and see what sticks.
Right, and it's also just you never get to do things the way that they're quote unquote intended to be done because that's not an option. So you're always like finding like wrong ways of like quote unquote wrong. All this is in scare quotes, but like you're finding ways to do things that are just kind of pushing them to the limit of what they're meant to be doing so that you can like actually use them. And so you're constantly doing those kinds of like, you know, back alley creative problem solving things. So I think that makes sense. Which is why I was like, oh, as a blind character, I'm like thinking about all the ways in which I could like come up with plans of how to deal, especially once she knows what's going on. Because as watching the movie, I have more information than she does. But once our information like matches up with hers, that's when I was really like, what would I do in this situation? But I think part of it is just like the lack of the technology that I would normally be using. I think for me, I was like, what would you do? What? No phone? What's out? No, what do you do? But yeah. But it is terrifying also. I don't know. Maybe in the 60s it would still be like, what the fuck do you do? Is there anything else about the movie?
I really liked it. I really, really liked it. I enjoyed it very much. It's another play that I want to read. And it was fun to know that, oh, wow, there's at least one part out there for a blind woman that I could, you know, potentially do if anyone ever wants to perform this play. But also just kind of, oh, wow, Audrey Hepburn is an amazing actress. And obviously she cares very much and very deeply about her craft to go spend her own time with blind people to make a fully realized character.
Yeah, it is a very well done character, or like a well done acting. It's probably one of the best ones we've had.
I would say so, yeah. And I mean, and even saying like, yeah, I lost my vision a year ago, so that, you know, if she was still looking at people's faces, which honestly didn't happen too often, as far as eye lines go, that makes sense.
Right, and we use that as an excuse for all these blind characters. We're like, I guess they like went blind recently, and she, or like maybe they went blind recently, but then for her, we know she doesn't. She still barely looks at, because she's always looking at people, but she's always looking right to the side of them, so that her ear, it's like that thing that they don't do and see that like drives me absolutely mad.
You're turning your ears to people instead of your eyes because you want to hear what they're saying.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and it is, and she also at times is not like looking at all in the right direction, and then when she is looking towards someone and is able to kind of triangulate where they are, like she's still not focused on them, and like her eyes are totally not focused, which is really cool.
Yeah, because they didn't do anything to her eyes. They didn't doctor them.
Apparently they did make her wear contacts that she didn't want to wear.
Oh, really? Oh.
Because she was like, I could act without these, and then I think they did make her do it. But I believe her. I mean, the performance was good enough that I believe that she could have acted. Because she was like, I don't want to wear them; they're painful. I could just like, I can act.
Yeah, let me do my job. Yeah, let me just act.
So that's kind of sad. That, but I do think a lot of it was in the performance. I don't think it was just because she was wearing contacts, and I think that like a lot of times when people don't do a good job, I think it's probably because they're not trying to do a good job. That's really the main thing.
Or that they just A, didn't put in the work, or B, didn't have time to put in the work. I mean, when I met Peter Capaldi at Rose City a couple of years ago, Peter Capaldi, a.k.a. Malcolm from In the Thick of It, a.k.a. Doctor Who, the 12th Doctor.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, 12th Doctor, because Jodie Whittaker's the 13th. Anyway, I can't not get that wrong. Well, when I met him, during his panel, he was talking about playing a blind character, because in one of his episodes of Doctor Who, he infiltrates a monastery, and I believe all the monks are blind. I haven't seen the episode yet, but he infiltrates the monastery and he has to be blind, so he goes blind, and I was kind of sort of skeptical about this because I'm just, I don't know. And we were talking about the fact that, there's just not a lot of time, because this is what he said, that when you're doing a TV show, you're pumping out one episode per week, there just isn't a lot of time to do a heck of a lot of research.
Right.
So he's like, so I talked with people, I talked with actors. He's like, do you know my friend John Malkovich? And I'm like, John, do I know? No, not personally. Do you? Yes, of course he does. But so he talked to John Malkovich, who's also played a blind character. I need to find out what movie this is, or TV show or something. And they talked about being blind. So actually, that would be something kind of interesting to talk about, this particular episode of Doctor Who. I think it's a 2-parter.
Oh, yeah. That's almost a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's why in TV we should always cast blind actors.
Yeah, because he wasn't trying to make an excuse to me, like, oh, I don't care. I didn't care. He's like, I'm an actor. I want to act. I want to learn. I want to respect my craft. I want to respect people. But when you're filming a TV show, I have, 3 days to come up with something. Whereas Audrey had a year that she spent with blind people. So obviously the performances are going to be different. And yeah, I do think there are some actors, some directors, some producers maybe that just don't give a shit.
Right.
And that's, yeah. And the actor might think that they know better than a blind person, but.
Or just, that there's just not worth. It is just on its face a weird thing that it's so common to have sighted actors. Because it's a discussion that we have about this, like the time it takes someone, that we really shouldn't be having this discussion at all. Like, this shouldn't even be a thing that we have to think about, because it should be the vast majority of blind characters are played by blind people. And and I know that that's like not seen as bad as like blackface or whatever at this point, and so I feel like I'm constantly having to defend that as a rule. And I don't know, it's just weird. It's just like, I think that it is more people, it's more maybe that sighted people just don't want to like have people they care about be accused of wearing blackface, basically.
Well, okay, well, so this is interesting, because this is kind of my soapbox. I'm not trying to defend the decision of non-disabled actors playing disabled actors. I think that needs to stop. I think we can do better. We're more accepting as a society. The change is very slow. It's also with actors who play LGBTQ performances who are not LGBTQ themselves.
Right.
If you're going, if that's a major part of this character, then you should have someone from the community play that character. Same as disabled people. You should have a disabled person play a disabled character. You're going to get a much better performance. I mean,
you don't have to. They're just They don't have to learn
They
how
don't
to
have
be a different kind of person.
Right. They don't have to
Kind
act
of person is a weird phrase, but yeah.
yeah. They don't have to act that layer on top of that layer
Right.
because it's already there.
Yeah.
It's like when they cast Zach, and of course I can't remember his last name, but in The Peanut Butter Falcon, it's a story about a character with Down syndrome.
Right. Well, it's also like Down syndrome, like invisible disabilities, I feel like is like one of the ones where it's kind of like in that gray area where people are still willing to defend it. But I mean, I think some people are most able people are starting to be like, yeah, maybe it is really offensive. Like when it's not an invisible disability, because that's like beyond offensive.
Yeah. Oh no. Well, if you compare, Peanut Butter Falcon to like I Am Sam, and Peanut Butter Falcon, the main character is Down syndrome, so they cast an actor with Downs, and I Am Sam is Sean Penn trying to be a person with Down syndrome. There's a reason why they make fun of him in Tropic Thunder. It's not good.
Yeah, it's just so offensive. But it is hard because I think that people like draw the lines in certain places, and it's
mostly, this is my idea. It's mostly because, unfortunately, there are not a lot of disabled actors who are quote unquote bankable stars. So when there was a play by Martin McDonagh, The Cripple of, oh Lord, it's a very long name and I can't pronounce it, but they cast Daniel Radcliffe as the crippled person, as the disabled person, because Daniel Radcliffe will put butts in seats rather than cast a no-name actor who is actually disabled to play this character, and then no one sees this play. Now, obviously,
so stupid.
It is stupid. It's awful. It's horrible.
Well, but that's so
terrible.
much of what we watch. Like that was like Within the Dark was like, oh, this is like a star, so that's why we have this person like her as the main character.
Right.
But it's just like, first of all, every story has a lot of different characters, and unless it's C, most of them are abled usually, so you could just put the star as a different character. That's just like very logistically easy. First of all,
sure,
but then it's also just like, I mean, it feels so like that feels like so disingenuous to me, and it feels like it is just an extreme problem. I mean, just like kind of, because I always like go to racial like representation in relationship to race, and like as an allegory, because I feel like you can always just kind of we're kind of in a different place in discussing like something like blackface than we are about like abled actors playing disabled characters, like. So kind of like to put them on each other. I mean, like, you obviously wouldn't have a white actor playing if you wanted to have a movie about a black person, you would get a white actor.
Of course
to play
not.
them.
No. Yeah.
But then, like, we also do now have more black movie stars.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a time, I'm sure, where they couldn't get cast, or not the same people, but historically,
totally.
like they couldn't get cast
Yes.
in certain roles or / at all in the really early days. And so that had to like, you can't have a star that was never in a movie before. So there is like a sense of like, what if you just said that you can't be an abled actor playing a disabled character? Then all of a sudden we start having disabled stars. Like they would just happen because people would be in movies and people would like those actors because I'm sure they'd be talented. And then also like on top of that, more disabled people would think of acting as a career choice. Like, because that's another big part of the problem is like, I would have never thought like, to play certain to be a blind person, I don't know. I mean, when I thought about acting, I was like, yeah, but I'm blind, so no, I wouldn't get cast as anything.
I think one of the main reasons, and this is, I'm completely speculating here, but I think one of the main reasons why is the entertainment industry is fueled by image. It's fueled by what you look like. If you conform to the Western standards of beauty, and you're extremely attractive or whatever, and you might go further in the entertainment world. And maybe, hopefully the same thing would be true if you were an extremely attractive person and blind, or in a wheelchair.
Well, that's
or,
the
you
one
know,
thing. There is a handful of disabilities who can still be very conventionally attractive. So that's not even, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously
Yeah.
conventionally attractiveness is a problematic thing, but.
Yeah. And, unfortunately, disabled people sometimes are not seen as either A, attractive, or B, just capable. Of being an actor, of doing these things. I mean, there's Matt Fraser is a disabled actor in the UK, and you can see him on American Horror Story, the 4th season of that show, Freak Show.
Yeah.
Because
Freak shows.
I know, but Ryan Murphy, for the most part, made it a point to cast disabled actors in that show. So the cast is full of disabled actors. Now, good and bad, because unfortunately the 2 leads of the show are disabled characters, but they are not disabled actors. So I'm like, you're gonna cast all of your crew is disabled, all your cast is disabled, but the lead people,
right? It's like C is also like that,
right?
It's just
Are able. Now, granted, American Horror Story is an anthology series, so most of the leads are people we've seen in previous series,
But they're playing disabled characters.
Yeah, but they're playing disabled characters.
Were they always disabled?
No.
Oh, they became disabled?
Oh no, sorry, no. In this season, they were born disabled. In the previous seasons, they're not, because they're all different characters.
So they're the same actors playing different characters.
That's what's really cool about the show. It's the same group of actors for the most part, the same core group of actors. From season to season, but they get to play different characters. I like it.
Well, and I think that this is the thing of like people, and this is where the argument about like casting disabled actors always devolves into is like, well, acting should be that you can play different kinds of characters. But then I always just think it's like, yeah, but I think as a society, we know blackface is bad. Like, so how did that happen then? Like, if it really is that actors can play any different kind of character, how did we decide that blackface is bad? Because that technically doesn't make any sense with that logic. But I think it's just like, it's kind of like free speech when people are like, well, if we start censoring any speech, even if it's Nazis, then, we no longer have free speech. It kind of feels like that kind of argument where it's like, yeah, but it's you kind of can't pick and choose. It's gotta be that we say, marginalized communities, it's not okay when we have people in power. I mean, it's like also how you explain how appropriation works. You can it can be fun to have a something like white chicks works because it's not because it's punching up,
Right,
it's like one of those things where there is like that you can do it in one direction for good reason, that it the power dynamics completely are flipped, but that is I don't know exactly how to argue against for this other than just being like, but we don't do blackface.
Right. No, I get what you're saying. And obviously I can't exactly pinpoint when we decided, oh, this is completely racist and something that we should not be doing. I think, I guess right now, I think it's up to the people in the disabled community, and saying this as like a disabled person who wants to act, who is not pursuing
it's not
that.
Really up to us though.
Well, it is and it isn't. Like right now it is so easy to get yourself out there, to create. It is so easy to make something and upload it to YouTube or Facebook or the internet or whatever, or make a podcast, and put that out there or something. Now we have so many different avenues to get yourself out there. Whether or not that's going to get you enough exposure to get an agent or to go on an audition or whatever, I don't know.
It's almost like they're not part. It's like they're different caste systems, and it's not. There's not a lot of going between the two. Of occasionally someone could get lucky to really hit it big, but most of the time those people are still getting represented by people in Hollywood to begin with. There's two different systems.
Right. Well, and it's not only disabled characters should be played by disabled actors, but it's also the other way around. I am a disabled person who wants to act, who doesn't necessarily want to do stories that revolve around my disability.
Right, but then,
I just want to play like Betty, best friend of of Stacy, or whatever.
But even if you are someone who doesn't have an invisible disability, and granted, like, I think both of us could theoretically play, because even though we only sort of have an invisible disability, we could technically play an abled character, whereas some people that would not be an option. But like, I do think that if we say for people who have to always play that disabled character, then all of a sudden now we have way more stuff for representation. You know how people like talk about colorblind casting, which is its own kind of problematic things in some ways, of like, you want to actually write characters that don't just seem like white characters played by black actors. Like, that can be problematic. But what could happen theoretically if we were like, okay, we're only going to cast disabled, like, we're going to try to cast disabled actors more broadly, then you can also wind up seeing a lot more disabled characters too, because it's like, people could get, like, famous actors. If we had big stars that were disabled, then we would just, all of a sudden, there'd be all these disabled characters, and like, there would actually be stories that were about us.
Well,
like,
and I think a really good example of this is Peter Dinklage. I mean, he started off, in the movies playing roles for little people, and then he got Game of Thrones. And and Tyrion is a dwarf. He's a little person. So that is the role. That is the character. But then right during Game of Thrones, he also played Boulevard Trask in Days of Future Past. That role was not written to be a role, to be played by a little person.
Yeah.
That was just, here's the character. Oh, Peter Dinklage, you're an awesome actor. You should play this person. That's how it should be.
Right. And if you have a lot more names, if Peter Dinklage is just like one of, 100 famous actors who have disabilities, which, like, is he just the one? Is there any more? Is there any other ones?
I mean, if I thought really hard, I could come up with more examples. But
he's kind of like the only household name that is like a disabled actor. At least one that at least someone that doesn't have like a very invisible disability that doesn't get brought up much, which I don't know if that exists.
Well, I mean,
we might be forgetting people, but it's just
I'm sure we are. I'm sure we are. But
it is like,
he's just kind of like the first one that pops into my head, because I remember watching that movie and going, oh, cool, Peter Dinklage. Oh, wow, this role wasn't written specifically to be a little person,
right? But and I think that if we had more disabled, if every time there was a movie about a disabled character, it had to be played by a disabled actor, you would just have more disabled stars, and then you would just have more. It's
absolutely.
like things like that. And then also, like, I think part of it is like being a disabled kid is like you grow up and you have no sense of what you're supposed to be like, what your life is supposed to be like, and you have and it just kind of kills any ambition, because you're like, okay, well, I guess I can do this thing that I would just be the first person to ever do this, and that's probably not true, but like you feel very limited in what you can do in your life because you have no role models, and also you feel isolated and you have to hide who you are, because like I think having more representation, kids even glom onto that socially, and so if you are never seen, that you don't have any sort, like, you don't have a lot of like context, like, that's even why I would use Daredevil as a kid, because I'm like, it's something, it's like a superhero, like, that's good. Like, I can, something that they'll associate that's not problematic, or at least they have something to, even though obviously my life is absolutely nothing like Daredevil's life, there's no real comparison, but just having something where you have a character like that. But yeah, I think more disabled actors would do that.
Yeah, I mean, well, for me it was people like Geordie LaForge, and then Quasimodo actually was the first disabled Disney character I remember seeing.
That's true. My parents love Hunchback of Notre Dame so much.
It's so good. It has major tone problems, but it's so good. I was jamming out a couple of days to Out There, to Quasimodo's song, because if someone were to ask me, sing your favorite Disney song, or the Disney song that means the most to you, I mean, Let It Go is great. Let It Go is amazing. Don't get me wrong.
I mean,
but
I don't need it.
I mean, okay, okay, fine.
You don't have to say that
okay.
to me. I don't care.
Okay, but my song is Out There from The Hunchback of Notre Dame, because even though I wasn't forced to be kept, inside a cathedral, inside a room for my entire life, but I related a lot to Quasimodo and the fear and the longing of how you're going to be treated by the outside world. Are you going to be accepted by people?
Yeah, that's interesting. my parents always just loved it so much, like that I never really remembered that much about it because it was like that's my parents' movie.
The stage musical version, which is brilliant, of the film, for a while Quasimodo was played by a deaf actor.
Oh,
It was really cool. There was a video on
it's
Facebook
not even
about
the
it.
disability that he has. It's a
I
character.
know, but yeah,
See, you
he
can do
was-
shit like that when you have disabled actors.
Yeah, played by a deaf actor. Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, that's. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of good to be done with. Just I don't know, and I apologize because I feel like I really like just made a hard left turn into this discussion because obviously
okay.
this is like the discussion of our podcast,
We
so
were
it's
doing
not like
so good, Sky. No,
I
it's
know.
fine. It's fine. It's okay.
I know,
It's
but
okay.
I think it's just something that we talk about all the time.
Well, and
but-
it's like movies like, oh my God, my friends love and my family loves Forrest Gump. Everybody loves Forrest
Who
Gump.
loves Forrest Gump? That's some
So
bullshit.
so many people. I have never seen Forrest Gump, and to be honest, I have no desire to see
It's horrible.
Forrest
I've
Gump.
only heard it because it was at school and I couldn't see it. But my family is anti Forrest Gump.
Yeah, I wonder how someone like Tom Hanks feels about the movie and that performance now.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting because I don't think there's enough of a backlash at this point for people to really feel that, like,
No, I
always
mean,
feeling that embarrassed.
Forrest Gump is basically considered American myth at this point. So I think it's much easier to hate something like I Am Sam and to see the problems in that film than it is to see the problems in Forrest Gump.
I mean, it's right there though to see how problematic it is.
Oh, I know.
I mean, the problem is I start every Forrest Gump conversation with be like, it's problematic, it's fucking awful, it's terrible, and wasn't it like 92 or something? Wasn't
Something
it that
like
Pulp
that.
Fiction was supposed to was up against it? It's like fucking.
I
are
have
you
no
kidding me?
idea.
Won
Yeah.
Best Picture over Pulp Fiction, I believe.
I know.
Such bullshit.
But Forrest Gump is like this feel-good story of a dude who's disabled who overcomes
Horrible.
his disability and does all this great stuff and blah blah blah.
The
blah,
Frank
blah, blah.
Ocean song called Forrest Gump is a good song, though. That is the one thing I'll give it. So now every time I hear that, like, just Forrest Gump, I just have that song going through my head. I'm like, okay, I can handle that. I just don't want to hear about the movie.
I remember because every single freaking kid in my school, just it was hilarious. Like someone would be running, or so you'd always hear "Run, Forrest, run,"
Which I would always say, run, Lola, run.
That's great.
That's the real one that you should be doing. But yeah, that was my household. No Forrest Gump. Lots of Hunchback of Notre Dame and
Yep.
Run, Lola, Run. Those
Yep.
were very common movies.
I'm nervous, Forrest Gump.
Since we've now talked about Forrest Gump and all on Peter Dinklage for a while, obviously very relevant to wait until dark.
So irrelevant.
Let's do our ratings.
Yes.
Who do you want to go first?
Sure. I'm sitting really pretty at a I'm feeling 2,500 for this, actually.
Nice. That's really good.
Yeah, that is really good. I just think, I mean, it's obvious. Audrey Hepburn is an amazing actress, and the fact that she put in the time and the talent to really fully realize what playing a blind person means, and I believed her pretty much every step of the way. Yeah, I just she was just really good, and it was a really nice kind of a breath of fresh air, especially coming from Murphy last week. And that's not to say that I don't hate Murphy, because I don't. But I really, really, really loved Susy as a character.
She's definitely a more likable person.
Yeah, she kind of has it together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a 2,200.
Okay.
I think it's like, I don't think it is problematic or harmful. I definitely like that she, obviously is not simply a character that's there to like, she's not the damsel in distress or some, like, because she is the hero of the story technically.
Yeah.
So she isn't meant to be something that's like just showing how a villain is bad so that the actual hero can then defeat the villain, like she is her own damsel in distress. So that I like that she's able to get the upper hand and be resourceful. And I do think Audrey Hepburn's performance is really amazing. And
She's a self-rescuing princess.
yeah, she's and exactly, and she's just very just and like you said, her performance is top notch, especially having done this now for a decent amount of movies. I feel like this is probably I don't know. I think it might be the best abled actor we've had playing a playing a blind character.
I think so. I mean, if I didn't know it was Audrey Hepburn and I didn't know that she was sighted, I probably would have been like, oh, wow, they cast a blind woman for this role.
Yeah, I think definitely. Yeah, she disappears and into the role, sort of, but also, I mean, I don't know. She is very iconic as well, so not
True.
entirely. But
it disappears is fair. That's the correct word to use.
Yeah, and I think that, I think I'm just giving it 2,200. I think that it is still, well, it's kind of confusing, which I guess is nothing to do with the blindness, but just like trying to follow the plot is a little bit harder. And and I think some of it is just the 60s gender roles for me, that I was just like, she wasn't like a full-on like she outsmarted them as a blind person, but she didn't out like gender role herself. Like, she's still kind of maintained a gender role. Like, it all takes place in the home. Like, she's still like, even though she wasn't like, there wasn't like very obviously stereotypical things, like she still kind of like surprised people by being like competent as a blind person. But going outside her gender roles less so. But I mean, I think that like her performance definitely makes it a 2,200 for me. But yeah, I hope we get more like blind women characters that are like full on badass. I mean, obviously she's a badass, but like a very 60s housewife badass. Like, I want to see like a full on badass blind woman, but we'll get there eventually, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, there's a really fun episode of Dollhouse, the Joss Whedon show, where the character, and I'm not going to take the time to explain the plot of the show because it's convoluted and complicated. But there is an episode where Echo, the main character, has to become blind to infiltrate a cult.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that's got all of the things that we love: blindness, cults, badass lady.
That's true. And Faith was always my favorite.
Yes.
Buffy character.
Yeah.
Well, Spike obviously, but then Faith. But yeah, and yeah, TV is also such a weird. Why do so many characters in TV become blind for an episode? What is that?
I have no idea.
But
why not just you can't think of what to do with your character? Oh, blind them for an episode.
Yeah, it's just a new thing. Oh my gosh, whatever. But yeah, so I think that's Wait Until Dark.
Yeah, that's Wait Until Dark.
We got a lovely Audrey Hepburn performance.
Yeah,
worth it for her.
I did good this week.
Yeah, though you better the next time you pick, can you
better
please
be terrible.
pick something horrible, because those are my favorite.
Yeah, I think I can find something awful.
I was like, I need to sabotage this. I need to find the worst one for my pick. Just be like, take that. No, but okay. So the one I picked. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that I'm basically just trolling the podcast a little bit. Because we did so cheeky. We had In the Dark, and then we had Wait Until Dark. So the movie that I picked just for the name is Touch of the Light.
This is perfect.
It is a Taiwanese film.
Ooh.
So we'll see how the dub is, if it has one.
Oh.
We'll see if it has one, because the Amazon page is extremely hard to understand, because it says it like says English as the only language available. But then on Amazon, but then on IMDb, it's as Mandarin is the only language that the movie is. Like, it's not an English movie. So who knows what we'll get?
Well, we will find out.
We'll find out. But that is hopefully if it might be subtitled, but so I apologize if it is, but hopefully there's some sort of dub. But yeah, it is. We're back to blind male characters,
Cool.
and romances.
Cool.
But
All right.
but this one has like boba, so we'll see.
Oh.
I don't think any of them have had boba yet.
Nope. I can't say as they have.
So, and I really truly was just like, if I have to find something that would be funny as a third one in this pattern. But I am excited because I do want to pick more movies from other countries as well. So
Oh yeah,
this looks like good.
totally down for that.
Yeah.
Super cool. So it's called Touch of the Light.
Yes, and it is from 2012, the year the
Nice.
world ended.
Perfect. Cool. And it's it sounds like it's streaming on Amazon.
Yeah, it is for rent on Amazon, and then
okay.
it's also, I think it's like YouTube has a thing where you can watch it like for free with like ads or something.
Weird.
I
Well,
don't know.
I'll do some investigating.
But yeah, so that's Touch of the Light next week. And then I guess the last thing are things that we have enjoyed over the past week.
Yes. Perfect. That sums it up succinctly.
The quickest way to say it. Do you want me to start?
Sure, go for it.
Okay. So mine is a book that I'm listening to by Bell Hooks, who is a a black feminist scholar who kind of who has both taught and attended many schools, but one of the ones she taught and attended was my alma mater, UC Santa Cruz. So she was someone that definitely heard about in college, but she's a very awesome person, and I've been in honor of like Juneteenth. I was like, I'm not doing anything, so I was like, I'll read some bell hooks that I have. So I've been really enjoying reading one of her books, but she has so much stuff that is like about feminist theory and like the combination of like Black civil rights and feminist theory, and kind of that intersection, and how those two groups don't always aren't always of intersectionality like of each other. And but then she also has like fiction and all this different kind of cool writing that spans the gamut of stuff. But the book that I'm reading right now is called Teaching to Transgress, and it's just kind of about like the banking system of education. It's very like top down, like you have a professor who gives the knowledge to students, and how that really kind of misses the opportunity for people to learn through each other, and to give like students the power to share their own experience as part of the discussions, and kind of how to like have a good education system that is both structured but also doesn't feel like kind of just like inseminating knowledge from up high, but has a lot more of kind of a discourse. There's a way of saying that word. Discursive, that's it. That's what I'm looking for. More of a discursive kind of like sharing of knowledge, as well as having like a facilitator as a teacher, but how to do that. Yeah, so that's my pick.
I love it. That's super cool. What and the author's name?
Bell Hooks.
Bell Hooks.
And it's
cool.
and Bell Hooks is the coolest thing that I want to do so bad, which is her name is always lowercase, and I want that so bad to do that with my name, because that it just is so cool, because it's like kind of like anti-capitalist, like it's not about me, it's about the work, and I'm like, yes, love it.
That
So,
is
yeah.
super cool. I really want to check her out now. That's awesome.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Well, okay, so my thing that is getting me through the week is also a book as well.
Oh, we always do books at the same time.
I know, but mine is on the complete opposite spectrum. So mine is a comic book series that I have been diving into this past week. DC Comics Bombshells. So, long story short, I have a set of glasses at home that have Wonder Woman, Batgirl, and Poison Ivy on them, but they are done up in 1940s style pinup art.
Of course.
So yeah, I really like it. I think they're super cute. And I had my housemate had some friends over, and I was hanging out with them, and I was drinking out of my Wonder Woman cup, and someone made the comment, "Oh, is that Gal Gadot or Linda Carter? And I was like, probably Gal. I think. I'm not exactly sure who this particular picture was modeled after. And then I had to go in and explain the whole so they came up with all this concept art, and then the concept art is huge, and now they're writing a comic book series about it. And they've actually been writing this for years. I'm just super late to the party. So I'm through the app, through the DC Universe app, I have been reading nonstop Bombshells for the past week. There's 100 issues that I know of, and I think I'm on issue 38.
Oh my god.
So I'm really trying. They're only 24 pages each, and they're super easy to read. And but the art is awesome and really, really super pretty. I'm enjoying this story a lot more than I would usually enjoy any other superhero comic, mostly because this is all it's all the DC universe, but it's 1940, it's World War II basically. So all of the men in the male heroes in the DC universe have either been born and have been enlisted and are fighting, or they don't exist. So it leaves all of the women who are home on the home front to fight the good fight, basically.
Oh wow. So
you're reading about Batwoman and Mira, aka Aquawoman, and Supergirl and Wonder Woman, and there's little things that are different. Like there's Batgirl is in Germany fighting with Batwoman, is in Germany fighting with everybody else. So back in Gotham City, you have the Batgirls, which are a gang of basically Batgirls essentially, who are going around and doing good deeds and things.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Oh my god, I could talk forever about it. But some of the heroes have different origin stories. Like Supergirl and Stargirl, they come from Russia, from Soviet Russia, and they're defectors basically. But yeah, no, it's just super fun, and it's light and it's fun, and it's just been bringing me joy, and it's a bunch of ladies, and there's lots of LGBTQ romance,
nice.
Which I enjoy a lot. Because Batwoman is gay and in a relationship with Maggie Sawyer, and Big Barda and Dr. Hotashi are in a relationship together.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just it makes me so happy.
That's
so
very cute.
Yeah, it's really, really
Did
good.
that actually happen in the 40s when all the women were working? Because that is real. I hope that they were all dating each other also.
Well, okay, I don't know about dating each other. I hope so, but I don't know about dating each other. But as far as all of the men went away, so the women went to the factories.
Right,
that's
they
based
were working.
on fact.
That's true. I know.
That's all based on fact.
That's real. Yeah. That's real historical. But
yeah,
I liked it. That's a good angle to just be and they all dated each other.
Right, because why not? Yeah. Well, and in the newest animated DC movie that came out, Red Sun, Wonder Woman basically, Russian Superman tries to date Wonder Woman, and she's like, "I come from an island of women. What do you think I like?" And you're like, yes, yes.
It's kind of like the crystal gems and just generally Steven Universe. Yeah. It's though they don't technically reproduce, but if they're gonna have a relationship, what are you gonna do?
Exactly.
That sounds pretty awesome.
That's DC Comics Bombshells. You can read it on the DC Universe app, or I'm sure you can check out the physical or digital books from the library too.
If your library has something available to do, libraries.
Hoopla.
Yeah, all this hoopla. Hoopla is such a good name for.
The app is terrible though. Oh my god! Sad. I've wanted to throw my iPad across the room several times. I haven't used it at all. It's fine when you're watching movies or whatever, or listening to music, but oh man, it struggles when you're reading comics, which is weird because I've never had this problem. And then just a couple of weeks ago, it just freezes all the time.
I wonder if it's an update then.
Maybe I just need to email the library and be like, what's happening?
It could be a bad update because sometimes that happens and app will get worse for a while. So it's just like, why bother?
Well, it needs to get better because I have Avatar comics to read. Damn it.
Oh my gosh. Well, you have to update us on how that goes.
Yes.
If they make Hoopla better.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, tune in next week for Touch of the Light. You also can check us out on Twitter at White Cane Pod or our Instagram at Citizen White Cane. You can check us out on Facebook at Citizen White Cane. Our amazing theme song is by Lucia Fasano. You can also email us at citizenwhitecanepod@gmail.com. And if you'd like to let us know with your voice what you think of the podcast or what movies we should do next, there's a link in the show notes. Do you know what the defrosting thing on a refrigerator is? Have you ever encountered that? I have no idea what the fuck that is. Did you have an old refrigerator that defrosted that way? Do you
have a sassy little girl that gets you groceries?
Yes. Do you know another actor other than Peter Dinklage that's a famous actor that has a disability? Because I'm sure that there's one of them. I really do think that I'm sure we're forgetting people, but
I'm gonna come with a list next week.
Yeah. But if you can, like, just at the top of your head, like, just name them off, like, just do it. Just right now. Click the link in the show notes, name them off, send it to us. And if you like the podcast, you should give us a rating or review, and of course subscribe as well to get new episodes. That's how podcasts work. Got anything else?
Stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe, and stay home unless you're protesting. And in that case, good on you, and stay safe.
Wear a mask. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And stay cool. It's too hot outside.
Yes, it's so hot.
Okay. Well, we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Citizen White Cane.
We'll find it. No fair asking Gloria either.
Sam,
Huh?
are you looking at me?
Bye, Doe.
Bye, Doe.